And that's when I said, close, but no pantaloons.
And with that, hello and welcome to our first official live episode of
Awdry Corner is filmed in front of a live audience.
It is. My dog, she's asleep.
Oh,
Me and the ghost in the background.
potentially not live then.
No. So, hello, welcome to anybody who's watching. I did make a comment. We'll probably notice at 11 o'clock if we're still going, the comments will just die because I think that's when Stephen and Unlucky Tug start there. So it'll be just like gone from to 0 views. We've got 3 people watching at least, so that's
Hey.
So hello.
With.
Hello.
I'll tell you what. Let's kick it off with a question that's come in.
Oh,
Two-Faced Heart Productions. If you had to best put the RWS into a series or season category, would you do it by illustrators? So the RWS would have 4 series.
you mean 3? Let's go. Oh, no, you're quite right. Middleton. But then again, you'd have to include Payne, wouldn't you?
Middleton, Payne, Dolby, Kenny, Edward, Hodges.
And that's it. Oh, Hodges. Oh, yeah, you're quite right, Hodges. And then that's it, isn't there? Yeah, okay, so Hodges, I guess. Yeah.
There was no other books, was there? I think.
I don't think they did any after Tramway Engines, Tom.
Tramway, the great finale. No, Stuart, you're wrong. Edmund Ward had put Book 27 really useful engines, but it was never written.
Oh.
That is true, actually. They'd already got the title for Book 27. But Awdry just didn't have any material, apparently. So,
as he said in his autobiography, the Barrow was well and truly scraped with tramway engines.
He said he'd been. I think it was in his own.
He said he struggled to write that book. He said he'd been struggling for a little while, and then the whole idea of perhaps retirement and stuff was just there as well. So,
hence there was no.
And he retired at that point. Might have retired at that point, but it was just like
there was no book in 71. So he did Duke in 70, did the map, I think, and the surprise packet in 71, but there was no book. And then 72.
Yeah.
And I think Eric Marriott had been pestering him, who, for those who aren't aware, I believe, editor, had kept pestering him constantly. And I think Eric Marriott had left K.M. Ward at this time. I think in a way that was where Wilbert was like, well, there's no one to pressure me to do another. I mean, he wanted to.
He was a big driving force. I think for many years, like Wilbert obviously enjoyed doing it. But then even Peter Edwards, and I read this in the autobiography, even Peter Edwards turned around and said that the time he had left for illustration purposes was getting less and less as it got towards the end of the books that Wilbert wrote. And of course, obviously because Wilbert was struggling himself.
Well, he wanted to stop after book.
But he's going to stop at book 12, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the 8 famous engines, that was it. But he hadn't foreseen that they were going to keep going with it. So, fair play to him for keeping on as long as he had done.
I think you could. I think actually that I do sort of look at them as in the periods of the illustrators, actually. So yeah. But what do you guys think?
It's probably the easiest way to categorize them. Into like season type things, honestly.
Or you do it in decades.
Yeah, you could.
But then your first bit would be a short one. Then you got lots in the 50s and the 60s, and then
you got 2 in the 70s.
70s, yeah. It's no, actually, I'll say something about the Christopher Awdry books because I mean, I know him when we were doing the test stream. He got hammered, and I'm not going to hammer him. It is like obviously an offshoot of it is still the Railway series. It is because his family. He carried on with it. There was a bit of a big gap between tramway engines and really useful engines. I do remember getting the books. I still remember the excitement of reading them. I did enjoy Spong's work at the time, and I think how things have changed for me is it's volunteering. It's being out there with a real thing and sort of making some sense of it all, and volunteering has obviously been a big thing. And then you start to see like the little errors, like Dalby and his signals, half of them pointing the wrong direction. They should point to the left as you look at them. And I think it was just, yeah, I mean, you can pull it apart. It's not like Peter Edwards' work. It's not like Kenny's work as well. And yeah, you can be a bit scathing with it, but I do remember the enjoyment of getting them and enjoying reading them and things like that. But I do think, yeah, he's just such a different writing style. And whether that's because the material he was using, he was working from reference material, I don't know. But yeah, it's certainly, there's a big difference between them and Wilbert's anyhow, that's for sure.
He acknowledges it as well in the autobiography.
But, yeah.
He acknowledges that my father's writing is far more humorous than mine.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he still took, like, for a majority of it, like true life incidents and wrote about them. I just, from a reality point of view, a technical point of view, I'll take triple header from really useful engines. No way on this earth, or on Sodor, shall we say, that you would have them three engines be able to work non-stop over that distance and not have to stop for water. And that was it, later on in years past, it was like the realization of
you get your water troughs. Fireman sitting on the edge at running board with a scoop.
I thought you were going to say a bucket then, Luke. I was going to say that would be pretty impressive.
A challenge for the viewer at home is to write in an extra scene for triple header where they stop off for water and meet Fergus, who works at the cement works.
No, the thing, what surprised me as well is that, like, he didn't pick the map up and have a proper look, because they climbed Gordon's Hill and then Percy's too tired to continue. So why not have it where they've stopped at Marron? Because that would have been a logical place to stop at. Which, in my mind, again, it's at the top of the hill, it's the top of the climb. Stop, water up. Let's have another go.
And the kicks there are really good.
Where is it? Where he comes? Where did they take? Is it Kronk?
No, I'm not sure, but it just says that they stopped when Percy was tired, so they blow the whistle, come to a stop, and basically Thomas's driver says, just do your best to keep the brakes off. Basically, don't do anything, we'll do the work. And then you've got Duck and Thomas doing all the work, and they stop just outside Crovens Gate. And then there's Gordon. Funny how, I think we've mentioned this in the past, Luke, funny how they did illustrate the Skarloey Railway where it should be.
You just stop there.
completely like, just, yeah, we will ignore that. But I mean, that story is based off an incident at Neen Valley, certainly it's Neen Valley, where and it was right. Thomas the engine.
It was the actual Thomas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's sent out to collect a failed train, and it ran out of steam sort of within yards of the platform. I'm guessing it would just be a case of blow up and then pull it the rest of the way and then let everyone off. But yeah, if you were putting it in a realistic setting, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be a non-stopper anyhow, let's put it that way.
Ben, Two-Faced Tart Productions comes back to you with that one saying, Triple Header wants you to subscribe to a very specific scenario where it's only Thomas, Percy and Duck who could have pulled the Express. I know people have debated that, but that never sat right with me.
Now, I'm just going to say this. Talking of subscribing, you should subscribe to him. He makes Consider the Following. It's a fun series, and I'm in it. There you go. Oh, a phone call. It's the IRS.
Speaking of subscribing, please subscribe to this channel. But I do struggle with this. Comes down, and we discuss this, is the fact of how many engines. Like how many engines? Like it's you see how many are in the book, and it's like Awdry already states that there's more, and it's like it's pretty bad where you have a scenario where you've got to take Duck off the Little Western and Percy and Thomas off the Farquhar branch. Toby's up. I tell you what, Stuart. Oh, Stuart's disappeared because he's on the phone.
He's mute, yeah.
Look, Toby would have a field day that day. The Farquhar branch all to himself.
Yeah.
No comment, Percy. Just him.
But
Henrietta.
you could also argue the fact as well. If you go back to Stepney, the Blue Rail engine, they had Duck, Stepney on a 15-coach train. So why take the third engine? Although I do question
Stepney was,
15 coaches with an
Stepney was,
A1X and a pannier.
Yeah, I think the 15 coaches is a bit generous.
I tell you what, we've said this before though, Ben, haven't we? That illustration of them going through Wellsworth
Is cracking. Absolutely cracking.
stunning. And like you've said before, the sound.
I would love to recreate that at East Lancs, coming off the Hayward line. So they've just come down over the ski jump, even with 6 coaches on. Drop the token off, straight through Bury, through the tunnel, and out towards Burrs. And I bet it would still sound fantastic at 25 mile an hour, let alone at like 50 odd mile an hour.
Full regulator, 75%.
Yeah, and 2 firemen looking at the drivers going, "We're going to chuck you off in a minute."
Get the terrier barking.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
We've had another question from our dear friend Mike. Hello, Mike. Would you say Percy was travelling backwards on the harbour line in Ghost Train rather than forwards in tramway engines? I definitely think he's going forward, and if it's the illustration, which is that beautiful one of him travelling at night, I definitely think he's going forwards because he has a red tail lamp on the rear. And Luke, you've come up to a little theory, haven't you, how he's then the other way around by the time he gets to Farquhar?
Did I?
No, it was turned around at Tory Wreck Mine. We reckon there was a Y, so you could go into Tory Wreck Mine in either direction. So
Yeah.
that would be the only way, because he meets Toby at Tory Wreck. That would be the only way it would work. Because
There's ways.
Wilbur never says anything about a turntable, so it's like
No, there's ways to explain it, which I think is just the easiest way to cover it, if you so wish.
Yeah.
Just quickly going back to about Awdry not, finishing up the books and finding it a struggle. I do think it's a shame because I was having this conversation the other day with some people who were saying, as a character, Burr has no potential at all, and I very much disagree. And it's a shame that the Reverend stopped writing where he did, because there's a fair bit he could have done around Burr. For one, I was going to, Stuart. I was saying, for one, that sure, unlike some of the other Diesel visitors that have come, he wasn't go shut up to the other one and stuff. But at the end, he's still really, really surprised by Henry being failed, and it said he's got a lot to think about because he's always kind of been told through his life that yes, diesels are better, and he's just that's just been part of his kind of thing. But for that kind of idea to be challenged, I think would be interesting. And he does gloss over it a little, going Henry put in a good word and they gave him a welcome. He doesn't say they gave him a warm welcome, just a welcome.
That's a bit I can imagine it a bit like a Carl Pilkington. All right.
Yeah, essentially. I definitely still think there'd be skepticism, especially from James Donald Douglas.
Well, especially because James has his prejudice for 2 more decades until...
Exactly. And that's what really, going back to Chris Awdry, it's like he just completely glosses over that. He could have explored the kind of, Burr settling in a bit more, but no, he's just kind of, oh yeah, Burr's there.
Yeah, I think, do you see him in one more illustration, and that's James and the diesel engines?
I'm pretty sure that's the only other one he's in, yeah.
The only other picture, yeah. I'm with you, Luke. I really agree. There was, I suppose there was always potential there that you could have done one specifically on the diesels. So Bear, Boco, Daisy, and Mavis.
The difference,
or just Bear and Boco.
Yeah, I feel that would be the better one because, like, and also people say, "Oh, Boco is just a diesel Edward," and I do disagree again because he's nice, but he does have a bit more bite than Edward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, because he's just, the whole thing of "Do you mind" with the twins, like he's essentially just going, "No, go away." Yeah, Edward wouldn't be very much like that. I think there's room for the character to be better, definitely. But like it's a shame it was never expanded upon.
That could be a story right there, couldn't it? A book, Diesel Engines. On Bear,
it's a shame. And like with Bear as well, like you've got Boco who doesn't really pose a threat to the mainline locos because he does the freight duties on the branch line, and he's regarded by them as a branch line engine. So they don't see him as a threat because he's lesser. But Bear being a mainline diesel pulling passenger, Gordon and James would definitely, I feel, put up a bit of a wall.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bear's taking today. Well, why should he take it?
Exactly. It is conflict we've seen before, but it is also slightly different because you've got Bear learning the differences between British Railways or the other railway and the Northwestern Railway, because it even says Henry was teaching him our ways. He finds them different from the other railways, but he quite likes them. That in itself is a story. It sets up a few things, and I feel like it's something that would be quite nice to have been explored, and it's a shame he never went through with it.
Saying that, Luke, one potential storyline that could have been a good one would have been Duck, Oliver, and Bear, considering the Western region locals.
Oh yeah, and Bear and Oliver arriving at the same time.
Yeah.
It's also interesting, isn't it, when you think about it? Obviously, Diesel 199 and 7101 were on trials. But you know what? Western region weren't stupid. It was at this point they were already going, these hydraulics are rubbish. Northwestern region, send them there.
Well, the 35s were the best of the bunch, weren't they? They lasted the longest.
So it's ironic. It's ironic then. Oh, sorry, the 35s were. It's ironic, though, that Hat keeps the hydraulic, whereas the diesel electric gets sent away.
That's all about attitude. And I prefer the look of the
hydraulic. Souls are not English electric.
I prefer the look of the 35 anyway.
Yeah, I do as well.
Where is the is there one or two preserved?
There's 4 in total.
Oh, okay,
Severn Valley, West Somerset, I think there was one
there.
Was
one at East.
We've got one at East Lancs.
Oh, is it still? Is it under repair?
Good question. The last time I saw it was about 2 years ago. It was in BR blue with the full yellow front end, and it was working. Now, I don't know because I get the magazine intermittently. Sometimes they send me it, and sometimes they don't. So I haven't read the local report for a bit. I think I want to say it's in traffic, but I haven't seen it for a bit, Luke. So it might actually be under overhaul.
I saw it last August when I went for my induction tour. It's down at
Castlecroft.
It's down in there alongside the Western, the 52.
It could be under overhaul then if it's in
there. Is that the shed near the museum?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So that's when I looked for it, and I've not seen it in traffic when I've been.
Explains why I didn't see it at Bolton Street.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking.
It's not down at the sheds at Barron Street. Not when I'm not seeing it.
Because thinking about it, that Western weekend we had the warship run. When I was on 813, we had it was the warship, whatever they call it, Greyhound, I think it's called. Sounds about right. I don't know. I don't really take much interest in the diesels, I'm afraid. That was running. Yeah, there wasn't the Heimet, but I have seen the Heimet run. So it must be under overhaul. I think.
Luke, there's been a question come in, which I think. Do you want to answer it? Because there is an answer to this question. Golden Eagle Studios and Production says, how would you think the Skarloey Railway would have coped between the years of 1901 and 1910 and 1914 when the S&M was shut down? Like, how would you think would they efficiently ship goods and slate from the valley to the sea, and goods back from the ports without standard gauge railway connections? You have an answer, don't you, Luke?
Yeah. So 1901 is when the last Soda and Mainland box tank, broke, and they couldn't afford to repair it. And between 1901 and 1914, the Soda and Mainland was only kept afloat by, I think it was the road services they provided, and also, I've read some. It's not in the Ellen of Sodor book, sadly, but I've read a little thing that was in the Awdry study at Towern, which said the Skarloey Railway, well, not the Skarloey Railway, the Crovensgate Mining Company bought one of the box tanks before the. So the Soda and Mainland had 3 box tanks, and don't know what happened to the first one. I think it broke down and was kept for Spurs. The second one was sold to the Crovensgate Mining Company, and the third one broke down in 1901. And after that, the Crovensgate Mining Company leased the line and paid to operate the Crovensgate to Kirkronan section with the box tank. So they essentially transferred it all themselves and just kept it going themselves. And obviously, when 1914 came about, the North Western Railway, once that was opened a year later, then they just went back to organising trains down to Kirkronan with the North Western.
By then as well, they could have gone via the bridge onto the mainland as well. So they'd have had the other option, wouldn't they?
Yeah, where the trains could go straight to England via rail rather than via sea.
Isn't there also the other information about the transporter wagon?
Yeah, I much prefer the later one where it's it said much later they laid a third rail all the way in between the 2 standard gauge rails, just a third rail, so they could run the narrow gauge loco all the way down to Kirkronan
From Crovensgate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's in there as well. But yeah, for the most part, it was with the box tank.
Do we know which one Neil was?
Number two. But Awdry doesn't give any details on which one was which in regards to the last one breaking in 1901 and which one was sold. There's no numbers given. But because I like sentimental, I hope Neil was the one that was bought by Crovensgate. Kept going.
The one that lasted the longest.
Didn't you come up with an idea that Neil might have been mounted at Vickerstown Station or something like?
Oh, and I ruined that.
What?
Didn't I? When I said, didn't they bomb that during the war?
Oh, we might get onto that one. Yeah, we'll
So Neil could have been mounted at Crovensgate, not Crovensgate, at Vickerstown after the Crovensgate Mining Company had finished with him. On the proud display for all to see. And down come the bombs.
Yeah, we will talk about that, because I was going to say we'll have a little chat about the main line from Barrow. Before we do that, modelling wise, what we've been up to. Stuart, do you want to talk first?
Well, I've been doing a lot of underwear for a very prestigious.
No, not that modelling. The other one. We talked about this.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I think I finally finished my model of Thomas the Train and his 2 coaches, Annie and Clarabelle.
Oh, can I share a picture with our viewership?
Yes. Yes, you can. You can share 3. You can share 3 pictures. So only do 3 pictures.
Hold on. How shall we get them to me? I know. Contact.
Nice.
There was a cat who joined in there.
Okay, so right. I will share. So this is a world premiere, isn't it? Really, world first, Stuart.
Yeah, you can look at it that way if you want. I don't think it's that exciting.
Well, I'm trying to build this up.
All right, okay.
That's why it's taking so long to click the button.
I just need to make sure I open the right. I'm trying to open the right tab. There we go. Okay, right. Here we go. Drum roll.
Ba-dum.
There we go.
That's awful.
No, Stuart, you've done a very nice job. Stop beating yourself up.
That is very, very nice. There we go. Look at that.
There we are. Look at that.
I really like that blue. I think it's really nice. And although he's not my favourite illustrator, that Dolby face just, I think, looks brilliant.
Well, the blue is Caledonian blue. One of them, anyway. Let's see, I've got it here. Oh, the thing's rubbed off. It's probably Caledonian light blue. It's Phoenix precision. Ironically, it's not that precise. It isn't really the proper Caledonian blue. It's much closer to garter blue, which is slightly more grey. Because I tried the Humbrol garter blue with Edward just to see if it was any different, and no, not really. A little bit, but not really. Yeah.
If I just move.
See, I've used that Humbrol blue, Stuart, on some of the Pico vans that I've for narrow gauge Pico vans for 7mm, and for me, it's sort of for what I was doing, it was fine, but I quite liked it. It went on all right. Did you on the just next to the buffer beam?
Yeah,
you've obviously done like the shed cord, which some might know that the southern region did it like that. Is that transfer? Is that a very steady hand?
No, I have very shaky hands. I'm a bit like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, without the machine gun and the pay. Yeah, no, that's just Fox transfers. The smallest lettering I had to hand.
Yeah.
It was an attempt. This entire model was an attempt to annoy a few people. Tom was one of those people.
It worked.
Yeah, I mean, I did initially annoy you with the discs, though. Yeah, when I said I was going to use discs, he said, "Oh, that's a southern thing,"
or an eastern region. Great Eastern.
Redwoods thing.
Oh yeah. And I've mixed an LBSC style one with an LSWR style one for Thomas's motor train.
I've just changed the picture. Look who it is.
Hey.
It's ugly, that's what it is.
She looks terrified.
I made it out of paper, like just painted paper. And Thomas's eyes, because the printer's been on the blink, so it's a scratch-built face from mainly scrap bits of paper.
Now, would I be right? I've got these kits upstairs. They're the Midland ratio ones, aren't they?
Yeah, they started life as approximations of Great Northern Railway non-corridor stock. When I say Great Northern Railway, I mean Great Northern Railway of Ireland, not the rubbish one in England. Yeah, and when I was looking into maybe having something for Thomas to run with, I noticed that they weren't too far off. Probably what, historically in inverted commas, Annie and Clarabelle could have been in the 20s and 30s. But, that's up for debate.
And I'll just scroll.
I think they're excellent.
Oh, thanks, babe.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the. I'm not showing Annie off because I've not finished it yet.
She's not.
There's no one in Annie. Whereas there are passengers. The crests, which you might be able to just make out, were designed by the lovely Luke.
Thank you.
That's as far as I can zoom in there.
Yeah, it's the Northwestern Railway crest that I designed a while ago. which you can buy on some mugs and shirts and stuff if you wish.
You can see the two big gaps in the track.
Phone case, but I haven't got my phone with me.
Clickety clack.
We're going to town. We're going to town. There you go. That's my party piece.
Stuart's on the track.
I'm on the track. Yeah, sadly, I don't actually have a finished layout yet. So they're on a set for a video I'm filming, and it has trains in it, and the trains that are in it is Thomas. I'm making a Thomas video. Hooray!
It's the end
First
time.
for me. Hooray! Hooray! No Fergus though. I am really excited. I'm just tired. Just tired of the grass looking really yellow.
I'll do some colour correction for you if you want.
No, I'll do it. I'll kill the beast.
Very nice. Then, am I right? I've got some pictures here to share of what you've been up to.
Yeah, you've got one so far. Yeah, in my attic, I'm trying to put that because I'm modelling in 7mm in O gauge. So I'm trying to put standard gauge track in there, narrow gauge to represent 2'3", and then even smaller track to represent 15-inch. I've just been making a few different kits of things that have taken my fancy, really. So the one I've been on with today is a Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway little shunting engines. This was one that was built and ran at Horrid Works. It was an 18-inch gauge engine originally. It's at the National Railway Museum. Although the one I've done is I've named it one of the sister engines. I've named it Robin for a change. Yeah, and they were used in the works for moving just various bits and pieces around. And I found it quite a nice kit to put together. There was a little bit part way through today where I was sort of swearing at it, and grunting and groaning and moaning about it, but I got past that bit and it's been fine. I have, if I send Tom incoming, a Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway inspired photograph. That's if this thing will come through. This is a standard gauge dapple wagon and a 15-inch gauge diesel. I don't know how many people know this. The Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway actually had dual track up to Merthwaite crushing plant for stone, and the 15-inch track ran exactly as it is in that. Have you put it up, Tom?
I've not got it yet. Oh, I have now.
Yeah. As you will see in the picture, you will see where the 15-inch gauge track is in conjunction with the standard gauge, and it actually ran like that up to Merthwaite crushing plant. So that's like a staged photograph. I don't think I will actually run it like that, but I might eventually do something in the future that way. And let's pick another photograph of some of my recent modelling attempts.
Sorry, that picture keeps distorting a little bit. Don't know why. There we go.
Lovely.
Yeah, I don't know who the diesel kit is by, but it runs on a Kato chassis. It's just a 4-wheel chassis underneath, and it does run really nicely. And then final picture I've sent Tom.
Hold on.
Oh, actually, there's one more as well.
Is this the one of the wagons you want me to share?
Yeah. And then there's one more after that one, but I'll talk about the wagons.
I have another picture to share of yours as well, Ben.
Have you?
Yeah. There we go. I like that. I like that blue for like maybe mid-sewed or stock.
Well, that was the route I was going. So when Stuart mentioned the Humbrol Garter Blue, that's what I've used for that one. And yeah, I just wanted to see sort of how it would come out and appear. I actually didn't prime them. I just went straight onto plastic. So the two blue vans, it's about 3 coats of paint on each. The white ones I've still got to, the grey I should say, I've still got to go over a couple of times. But I'm going to weather them so that they look well used. And the polystyrene in the background is glued down. It's going to be a hillside to that corner of the attic when I get round to it. There is just one more photograph which I'm trying to find to share, and then I will hand over to Luke. There it is.
I was going to say, while you're just finding that, the ballast man asked, did you solder the kit or glue it, Ben?
Which kit? The Springside kit? The little Wren kit, I didn't solder.
Wren, yeah.
I will hold my hands up now, and the last white metal kit I tried to solder was a Taliclin 009 kit when I was about 13, and I managed to put the soldering iron straight through the saddle tack and made an absolute right mess of it. So when I've ever done white metal kits since then, I've always been happy to glue, use a decent super glue, and use milliput and fill any gaps, unsightly gaps with milliput, let it dry, and then just sand back. And then when it's painted, you don't really see the joins that well, that badly. So yeah, I know it's glued.
Is that the correct picture, Ben?
The last one, yeah, I did. I just wanted to do a comparison.
So on
Final
the left
picture, right on the left, you've got 7mm track, which represents standard gauge. That's 32mm track. The one in the middle is 16.5, which is what you use for 00HO. And then the one on the right-hand side is 009 track, or N gauge. And it's in 7mm scale. You've got standard gauge, 2'3" and 15". That's what it represents. And I'll have an example of each in the attic. The one in the middle will run right round the attic. That'll be continuous, and the rest will be like just short sections of it.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Luke, I think you've sent over what you've been working on. I think a few of us saw these coming together on last night's Modeller's Corner with Mike.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just setting up. So, talk us through what we're about to see. There we go.
Here we are. So it's the Skarloey Railway shed. Yeah. Still needs a roof at the back. Oh, the picture's gone a bit.
I know. There we go.
Yeah, it still needs a roof over the rear portion of the building. But it's nearly done, which I'm very happy about.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Tasty.
Very sweet.
But yeah, it's probably my biggest scratch build I've done yet.
There was that layout, wasn't there?
Well, Tidmouth, just thinking about it, I'd say yeah, but those were 3 separate buildings and like weren't the full building. If I'd done the whole shed of Tidmouth, I'd count that as it. But because this is my biggest, full building, if you would, because the other 2 were just low relief.
Does the mountain not count?
It's not a building, is it, Stuart? It's not got a door.
I mean, someone lived in it.
What, the mountain?
Yeah. Colonel Stevens lived in the mountain.
Oh, of course. Oh, that
Sorry,
mountain,
Flint.
of course.
Flint?
No.
No.
Yeah, so
I have
it's
to
main,
what's the bread rolls? Are they a special load for
the bread roll? Oh, the bread rolls. No, the Morrison's owns hot dog buns, because we had a little mini barbecue on our front drive the other day.
I'm inbred myself.
Yes. Yeah, so I did some Lincolnshire sausage on the barbecue.
Nice.
Yeah. So the main shed is Will's plasticard sheet. The roof is Will's plasticard sheet. And yeah. No, the little strips on top are just some plasticard evergreen strips just to cover up the dodgy joins in the roof. Thankfully, actual roofs do have them. So, and the carriage shed, the base is using some plasticard sheet with the brick texture, and the rest is some coffee stirrers. So
in that picture, Luke, I was going to ask: is Duncan in the shops? Is that what would you?
yeah, that's the workshop, the furthest back road there. And I'm hoping to detail up the inside, all how it looked in Pendray in the 50s.
Very nice. Here's another picture.
Oh,
Yeah, and Skarloey's there, out of use, so he's being used as a buffer stop for the coal truck.
Oh dear, we never saw that in the book, did they?
No, but that's how he'll be on my layout.
I love it. To be honest, he makes me more think of it. He's a bit like a waiter. You're cold, sir. It's
Would you
Manuel.
like some fresh spring water with that?
I want to change my cold medium rare.
Lucas has asked, and when the original Skarloey shed opened, the back portion, the workshop area was there. I think the main misconception is in later, it's a lot larger in the later books because it's been expanded upon since. The way I've modelled it is how it would have been built, but by the time you get to, well, definitely Chris Awdry's books, it's had a whole other shed built onto it and is a lot larger than it is there.
You see it really good in Little New Engine?
New Little Engine, yeah.
Yeah, New Little Engine, because you've got that scene as Skarloey leaves and they're all
that's the
down.
one I'm on about. Yeah, that's the expanded works, but as I've modelled it is how it would have been built. And again, as it was built, the loco shed was only one road as well, as I've got it there.
Yeah.
But the finished layout will have the shed as the 2 roads, so you can get 4 engines in the shed.
I like in that photo that you can see the road bridge.
Yeah, which is also made of Will's plasticard sheet. I like the products, if it's not evident. It's very, very easy to make stuff from.
Unless it's a craftsman kit.
Because I don't get the craftsman's kits personally, because it's not really a kit, is it?
No, it's
you get given sheets.
Plasticard.
Yeah, you get a box of plasticard with an instruction sheet telling you how to cut it.
They should be called like Will's Scratchbuilding or something. You know?
Yeah, you're paying expense for plasticard in a fancy box with some instructions.
Probably cheaper to buy it all separately.
It's about £4 for a box of 4 sheets.
Yeah.
So it's £1 per sheet. And you get, I use 2 boxes. So that entire shed's been made out of 8 sheets of brick. And I think I might actually have 1 brick sheet left over. So 7 brick sheets. And I made the roof out of, the roofs took a bit more because I hate making roofs. They're annoying because you've got to get the angle correct. So I've used a bit more.
That looks very, very nice. Is that sorry. No, I was going to say, is that everything? But no, if you've got more, please.
No, that's pretty much it. I was just going to say the thing with the slate, you're going to use more because you've got to cut with the pattern, because with the brick one, you can cut it upside down, or it doesn't matter which way up you've got it, as long as the bricks are vertical. No, horizontal. Sorry, I'm tired. As long as the bricks are horizontal, you're fine. But with the slate for the roofing tiles, they've got like a specific pattern where you need to have the sheet a certain way up. So even if you've got more room on the sheet to say cut out another piece, if you can only do it one way and the pattern's the wrong way, it won't look right, because your tiles will be like going up the roof and defying gravity.
Yes, sort of stacked the wrong way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice.
It's like you'd started building it from the top of the roof and layering them on top that way.
Lovely. The only thing I've got to share is, which I've posted on Twitter, but I'll just post a picture, share a picture now, is my Cora Mark II. And this is how she's looking. There we go. I've done a little bit of work since then. Yeah, I painted that little bit of edging that was blue into blue. In fairness, I can't thank Luke enough for sort of talking me through how I do it and stuff, but to get the door open. But yeah, I'm pleased with that.
It's lovely.
And then
It's good, isn't it?
done the interior. And then painted the lampines. So tomorrow is a case of putting the roof on. And then we'll probably... Oh, and transfers. And then it'll be weathering on Monday.
Very nice.
It's lovely.
What is it?
Just a van, generic. I'm debating about putting a chimney on. Wilbert had a chimney on his, and but I don't know because I've never seen it sort of mentioned anywhere else. But the Corris van did have one, didn't it, Luke?
Pardon? Yeah. When it was on the Corris, it had it because it was a little stove on the inside.
So I might put that in the corner.
Do what Daddy Wilbert would do.
Yeah, although we discussed this, Wilbert's Cora model, I'm not sure what he used. It's
weird.
It's overly wide.
I just wondered, Luke, whether it was just whatever he could get hold of, and that was
pretty much because I'm pretty sure he made it before the kit was available.
Yeah.
Very good. We have 12 people joining us. This is great. Thank you very much for joining us. So I just thought we'll go along. I've got a couple of ideas what we could touch on. Of course, keep posting your questions, and we'll jump in and try our best. I was thinking about talking about the NWR main line, sort of from Barrow, and just talking through it, and some of our own ideas on things that maybe we've tried to fill in the gaps that audience have sort of answered and things. So if that sounds all right with you three.
Of course.
Yes.
So, if we start with Barrett, now this is let's get in there straight away with a sort of a bit of a some people may not agree with this one, but one idea that I turned to the book. It states very much with Barrow-in-Furness that there's an engine shed for the NWR there. From what year?
25, isn't it?
25, yeah.
25.
It says Barrow-in-Furness. The NWR had running powers into Barrow Central Station ever since their agreement with the LMS in 1925. For through trains, NWR engines are detached and engines from the other railway, BR, take over. Since the 1925 agreement, the NWR have had their own locomotive shed, turntable, and servicing facilities there. There is also a joint goods yard for exchange of traffic. Now, Ben and I have had quite a few long nights we talked about this. I was even maybe bored, or who knows, sad enough to actually take a map of Barrow in 1914 and work out exactly where the NWR would come in. And sadly, I don't think I've got the file now because I would have shared it. But Ben, we worked out that essentially it was a big loop, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I was sad enough to buy, because I saw it in one of the local shops in Barrow, because I'm from this area now, from that area. 5 maps of Barrow-in-Furness as it was in 1913. So you could argue year prior to the NWR being formed.
Yeah.
And of course, it shows you the shipyard, ironworks, steelworks, Barrow Central Station, right down to Ruse, and it shows you all the housing, all the street names and everything on these 5 maps. And it wasn't too difficult to sort of imagine where the bridge could go and how it would get to Barrow Central, but it was essentially it was a loop. So, and this came about because we were talking about Gordon Goes Forward and how he steams through the station as if he's trying to get to London, and I'm thinking that he'd come in from the other way, and then that was what spurred me on, and I found these maps, and yeah, we've had long nights discussing it. And yeah, essentially you'd come over the bridge and Barrow was just full of railway sidings for goods traffic, passenger traffic as well. There was quite a few lines went off to the different areas of the docks. There was a harbour station at Barrow, which was Ramsden Dock, which didn't stay open all that long because a bit like Kirkronan and Hornby, they lost the ferry services and to Fleetwood and Heysham. There was another one at Roe Island, which was again very, very short-lived, and the track was soon lifted from that section. Early 1920s, I think, off the top of my head, without consulting the book. And so, as I say, these maps were great because you could see sort of the areas of unbuilt land that weren't built on, which potentially, engine shed could go there. And yeah, it's kind of quite easy really to make sense. And of course, where Morrison's is now, and you've driven down there, Tom, as well. I drive down there when I go to work. That area was like the marshalling yard for Barrow. It was huge. I think it had something like nearly 20 odd lines at that section. Because of course Barrow Shipyard at one time was, I think it was classed as one of the biggest shipyards in the world. It was also one of the few places in the world where raw material went in and a finished product came out. There's none of this like nowadays. Everything's like subconned out. Different companies do different parts. It's just, they built everything and anything there. It was amazing what they had. Became very self-sufficient very quickly. And of course, you could argue sort of 1913, up to World War II, essentially was the heyday for Barrow in terms of what work was there, what goods came in and out. And it was, in some ways it was quite easy to make NWR fit.
And this is
without making too much sort of, liberties, taking too many liberties. Because the maps just show the line come across the bridge and then straight to the station, which you just physically couldn't do. So actually having a proper, a nice old map to look at just made it so much easier going, well, hang on, I can do that. That's it, sort of thing. And Barrow Station Barrow Central had 4 platforms. And I've always imagined that the engines would use platform 4, which was like the one that didn't have a shelter. Well, apart from a little like wooden building, it was kind of that's yours kind of thing. We want the covered station, which was there until it was bombed in 1941.
And this was why it sort of answered if they come up in a loop and then come into Barrow from the north. Yeah,
they can come in from the north, or they come in through. They can come into Barrow from the south end as well, because they could have followed all the dock lines around and then come in from the south, which would have passed. They would have passed the Furness Railway shed, which became Barrow MPD, and coming from that direction. Yeah,
because the Awdry map actually shows the NWR dipping under the Furness Railway, and actually it was just physically impossible because it's sort of almost just at sea level. It
was going straight through the shipyard, which was just Vickers Shipyard and Engineering Limited. It was like, nah.
And the thing is, this sort of links in with Awdry states, if we go to the Vickerstown section, he states that the turntable was lifted from Vickerstown in 1927. The engine shed closed 27-28. A smaller one erected. The turntable was moved and up installed to Barrow. Well, then off the rails doesn't work because Henry's in his new shape, so it's post 35.
Yeah. So the only way it would have made sense is if it's based at the NWR shed at Barrow. But then my question would be, what's Hat doing looking out of a window that's not Tidmouth?
Drugdale.
Must have been visiting.
Just so happened. Again, the text doesn't state that he can see Gordon.
Also doesn't state that he's
not true.
There for, it doesn't say whether he's there for a drug deal or not. I think it's a drug deal. It's definitely a drug deal.
Dealing in sausages. We've got some illegal Cumberland there's a ban on Cumberland sausages on Sodor. That's the thing.
Read the iOS. It tells you all about it.
It does. That's why it's hard to get. Big boot. Stuart, you've got a question.
Oh, I do.
What kit did you use for Annie Clarabelle?
Well, I used the Ratio Midland Suburban kits for Annie. It would have been a third class Suburban Midland Railway, and Clarabelle would have been a third brake. Yeah, I got the kits years ago, so for all I know, I might have bought a first class coach and just slapped third class transfers onto Annie, but yeah, they're not too expensive. I did, however, replace the bogies on them with some Bachmann LMS ones because I don't like ratio bogies. I think they're a bit flimsy and do not take corners very well. But maybe that's just me and my shoddy craftsmanship.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Tell you what,
Looking at them, they look awesome.
Stuart, as far as I'm concerned, you are a trendsetter because you've done something with your Annie and Clarabelle, well, actually with your Clarabelle, and I've gone, yeah, I'm going to have to do that now. You've cut the windows out at the rear, which works. I think that's a very good thing you've done.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to have to do it now. I wasn't doing it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was it fun?
It wasn't not fun. It was oddly therapeutic. It was very easy. Just make sure you've got a sharp scalpel blade, and anyone can do it. But if you're a young person, make sure that you have an adult supervising you, or one that was made earlier by the people at Blue Peter.
What, an adult that was made earlier?
Well, yeah, presumably they would have had to have been made earlier if they're an adult. I know you like your Star Trek, Tom, but it isn't real.
What? I thought it was a documentary.
Yeah, it's got aliens in it and everything, I think.
I forgot to
talk about the people of West Bromwich.
I forgot to share this earlier. As many of you know, Ben. Oh, where are we going with this one? Ben.
Yeah, now even I'm worried.
He's the Tiger King.
Ben is a fireman at East Lancs, and he's a driver at Ribble. Ben has driven Thomas.
The tank engine.
I have a picture to prove it. In fairness, this is well, Ben, you talk us through it. You know the engine.
What was he like?
No, it was good. It was only over a short distance, but it was good. It was nice to be able to caress the regulator and just open it and just gently drive him around. No, it was good actually. It's a cracking little engine, really.
Really useful.
Quite powerful for the size of it as well.
There we go. Oh,
it shrunk.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, it's glitching a bit. Hold on a minute. We've got like
double boilered.
Hold on. Let's see if we can. Come on, behave. There we go.
Yay!
And if we zoom in a bit,
that was that picture.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. That actually was this year before lockdown. It was our gala at East Lancs Railway, and unfortunately I could only do the Sunday. I do try and do as many days as possible at the galas because I know how chaotic they can be and how much of a struggle it can be to get the number of crews to run as many engines as we usually do. And I was rostered for a full day on Gothenburg, Oswald Clark engine that worked at Manchester. It worked for the Manchester Ship Canal, and it does play our Thomas on Days Out with Thomas. Hence why it's in that lovely blue with red stripes. And that's taken at Brooks Bottom, so it's just past Somerset on the way to Ramsbottom. And we were doing a Bury Ramsbottom shuttle all day, so we did 4 round trips. And to be fair, when it does Thomas, it just shuttles up and down Bury Bolton Street, down one of the sidings, and then comes back with the diesel tagged on the other end. So to actually be on it when it's running a decent length, it's nice and it's enjoyable. So yeah, and that's just before we plunge into Brooks Bottom Tunnel. So
You get lots of willing volunteers on day outs with Thomas.
there's volunteers. Whether half of them are willing is another matter. No, it depends what turn you get. If you're doing what they call the mainline turn, where you do full, very rotten stall and back, it's fine. And Thomas isn't bad because you either do a prep AM turn, so you prep it and then get introduced into the station, and everyone cheers when they see you, and then you run up and down a few times, and you give it to the afternoon crew, or you do the afternoon turn, so you turn up, engine's already in the station, you run up and down for the rest of the day, take it on shed, and disposing is dead easy anyhow. So it's quite a nice turn doing the PM. The one that I think most people detest is doing the troublesome trucks up at Ramsbottom, because you don't really do much when you're up there, apart from backing from the siding into the station and then run back to the siding, and that's about it. And you just, it's a bit of a boring one, really.
My first cab ride was was in an 08 that was pretending to be Devious Diesel during one of those days. I was volunteering on the model railway, and just so happens that one of the people who was on the model railway there as well was someone who, I think he was basically the organizer for things that day. He said, "You ever had a brake van ride before?" I said, "No, not since Union of South Africa." The only time I've ever ridden behind an A4, it was in a Queen Mary brake van.
Was that when we were at Children?
Children, whilst you were in Joe M's cab.
It's Alan Middleton was driving Joe Ben.
Oh, smashing.
So he invited me up onto a footplate while Stuart and a few of my other mates all crammed into the brake van. I got a very angry message with a picture of annoyed faces.
I'm looking at that. It's a lovely shot. I'm also intrigued by what's going on in the window of the doorway of the coach.
A rendezvous.
There might have been a bit of a she's turned her head away from him. I think there might be a bit of a breakup going on there.
That's right. East Lancs, EastEnders live.
But
it's more curry country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't strain something, Stuart.
Too late.
Not like last time.
Oh.
But no, it's a very nice image, that. Because East Lancs for the Thomas event, they and actually it's very convincing. I think it works well when they're together. We have the Scottish twins because Donald and Douglas are portrayed by the A class and by Douglas,
the other A class.
Yeah, and actually, I think they look
to confuse people.
They both have similar tenders, very similar tenders as each other, and they're both very similar to a Caledonian 812 tender. So actually, I think.
Look, all I'm saying is the best Donald and Douglas was Maud.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I agree. As
they actually gave it a number 9 and a name
for an 812. There's a picture somewhere online. I will find it.
And they had a bonus for a short time. They had Hamish, which was the 419 was Hamish, I think. And it had a weird sticker that proudly proclaimed that it was called Hamish. I thought it was a rubbish name. They should have called it like Jonathan the Destroyer or Creme Brulee.
Can we give full credit here to our friend Richard because these are his photos?
Yes, yeah.
On Twitter, let's share these because this is worth doing. Just before we show the photographs, Two Tart Face Productions for the East Lancs events. They literally brought Judy over for 1 year and they couldn't put a face. Yes.
If you want to talk about it, then maybe.
Oh God, are we really going to get into Thomas the Tank Engine politics?
It's not. Yeah, it's not. That is politics. It's
my entire life at Bonus.
It's just
for those who aren't aware, of course, Alfred and Judy are the prototypes that Bill and Ben are based on that live down at Bodmin. Is that right?
Yeah, Bodmin and Winford. Yeah, they're both together.
So yes, you weren't rostered that. You were away, or you weren't there, were you, Ben, when it happened?
No, we were doing. My shift pattern meant I was at work, and unfortunately, the guy I work opposite with, who's on the opposite shift, he couldn't cover me, and they were like sort of grumbling that I couldn't have the time off, so I couldn't do that weekend. And it sounds like I would have been rostered on duty. I got hints of what it was, and as soon as I found out, I was like, "Oh, gutted! I would have loved to have seen that." Having chased her, I mean, I've been behind Alfred and Judy at Foxfield near Stoke-on-Trent on the Foxfield Railway. Superb, and they turned up for a Bagnall event. Brilliant. So yeah, I missed out on sort of seeing it and perhaps having a go on it and whatever. I think they're both under overhaul now. I have a feeling that was close to the end of its boiler ticket, but I'm not sure of that. But yeah, the thing about putting faces on, yeah, it sort of started with the end of Hit, and certainly Mattel have gone that way. I mean, we've got City of Wells, and I believe there's a character called Rebecca. But yeah, even though we've got the right looking engine, we can't put a face on that. It just seems, again, a very bizarre state of events, really. It's like we used to have a face on the crab. Now, we never advertised the crab as it's James, right wheel arrangement, and it's red. But yeah, we had to stop putting faces on that as well. So it just, and to me, it spoils the event, because you've got engines with faces. So you've got Thomas, Diesel,
Percy,
Douglas knocking around, and then suddenly you've got like an engine going by, and it's, hang on, there's no face on that. And there has been comments passed about it, and it's like we literally just got to quietly say, because of course they take umbrage if you say anything negative about them. We've just got to say, look, that's the rules. We don't make the rules, and that's how we've been told we've got to do it. And they've gone, all right, the parents understand it. The kids, it's like, it's harder work. What do you say?
It lost its face.
It's asleep. So when it's
shy.
Yeah. That might be a good one, actually. I'll have to use one. That one.
Sleepwalking. It's asleep. It's sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Right. I've got the Maud pictures.
Oh, here we go.
Are you excited, Stuart?
Oh yes. I mean, I've seen this a million times, but
In fairness, I agree. This is very convincing. I love this. Here we go.
The Awdry Corner.
Oh yes.
I think they mounted the face on the wrong lamp iron.
Hello. Yeah, right. Sorry. I don't know what the accent was. I'm sorry.
The impression that it's a high-pitched boiler.
Sorry, that's awful.
Wow, racist.
Sorry. I tell you what, they've even done. Hold on, we've got some more. Hold on.
This must have been after they did Railway Children, and before they put it into BR Black.
Look at that with the Donald nameplate. It's brilliant. Yeah, that face is a bit mounted eye. You can see it to the left.
Does look excellent.
Does. Really good. And then there's another photo. Oh, look at that. Smashing.
Look at that rear end.
Oh.
And if I ever do dongle or donkless, that is how I will do it. 2 J36s. The same J36. Mowed.
Richard's just comment. Oh, that's my picture. Yes, I did say I was just linking it to your Twitter. I've not saved it or anything. I'm not.
I have.
I can't help for Stuart. It's just Stuart.
Now somewhere I don't think I've ever scanned them. I'll try and dig them out for another day. Photographs of when Ravenglass and Estelle Railway made theirs into the small railway engines with faces.
They're doing that again this year.
All right.
They're doing Day Out with Thomas again this year.
Well, hold on. Are they doing it this year?
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like to rain on people's parades.
No, yeah. If it goes through, if it happens, it's happening this year, and I feel like it's only because it's the 75th.
Actually, it's also Luke. This year is the 60th anniversary of the Preservation Society.
Ah,
Yeah.
Although they obviously won't be celebrating much this year unless they do it later on, if we're out of lockdown. But yeah, and the only reason I've twigged this is I was a member when it was the 40th anniversary of the Preservation Society, because I am in the booklet, not on a photograph, but I'm actually mentioned in one of the texts in the passage. Yeah, and there's a good write-up in there about River Might when it was actually bought and transported to Ravenglass by traction engine, because they recreated that at Beamish Open Air Museum a couple of years ago, didn't it?
It did. It looks amazing. That I wish I
It
could
did,
have
yeah, and it
seen
was
that.
the same traction engine as well, which made it even
Oh
better.
hell,
Yeah, it was Progress.
that's brilliant.
No,
I
it's
think it was
progress.
Was it Progress it was called?
Thank you, Stuart.
Luke, we have a question for us. Luke and Tom, will you have your Donald face on your loco like that?
Yeah, well, if Tom wants his Donald face hitched that high up, I'll do Douglas's a bit too low.
Yes.
That's how you tell them apart.
Yeah.
Will any of you be doing a Donald or Douglas, or Donald and Douglas?
I'm doing. Sorry, Luke. No, go on after you.
I was about to say, I feel like I'm going to end up doing both because I'm a completionist.
Yes, you are one of those.
I'm sorry, Stuart.
No, don't apologise.
I'm
Depends.
modelling essentially the era my layout would be kind of roughly when they've kind of just arrived. So I'm feeling like I'm going to have one in blue and one in black.
Yes. Thank you.
Lovely contrast.
Yeah,
pretty much, yeah. And
I can get behind that.
It allows me to model both, known versions.
Will you be doing one of them as if it's sort of a proper BR livery, but with the extra lining? Or
I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm going to do it reality BR or what's shown in the books. Because I feel like I'd like to do it as just the plain black with the crest, and like I'll put. But what I was going to say is like with some heavy weathering, kind of like put the numbers on, and then let them dry. Well, not even that. I was going to put the numbers on and then like scratch them out with like a fiberglass brush.
Oh right,
make it all look.
Impression of it.
Yeah, the impression that it's been scratched off. But still have like the 3F above it there and such.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That would be good.
And maybe like Donald, well, I think probably Douglas or Donald or Douglas, like chalked where the name is, maybe. Or like I'll probably have it where he's got the name plate, but just not the livery.
Can you have like Kilroy was here on the tender?
You could, yeah, that could actually been a thing that came in from Hat after the incident of missing coach. Get the names chalked on those boilers or something.
Yeah, like when we were watching Evil of the Daleks, Doctor Who putting the
Alpha, Omega, and Beta. Just sketches them, just chalks it on them.
I'm doing Douglas. I'm going to model Douglas.
Get him! He's skipping one.
I am. I'd like to do both at some point, and I would like to do both in blue. However, because I'm modelling the Farquhar branch in the autumn of 1959, very precise. Originally, I wanted to do 1959 because it's just the 3 original engines working the line. So I don't need Daisy or Mavis at this point. But also, I thought I could do a little. Ben and I have done this. Ben has kindly done a working timetable for the Farquhar branch, which was essentially at first based on Awdry's, and then Awdry's timetable is more a sequence for operating at a show. We've done this like a proper.
Yeah. I'm trying to work out like how quick an engine would accelerate, how quick it would cover X number of miles, and how quick it would slow down, how long the station stop. That was head scratching, and I went on to Mark II, and I'm not happy with it. So it'll be end up Mark III and possibly Mark IV. But with the timetable, I'll if you don't mind me dropping the snippet of info in, Tom, the Mark II centered around the story missing coach, because it gives you a time of the Wild Northwestern turning up, Thomas collecting his coach, and I wanted to try and get the timetable sort of somewhere around those times, so it fitted with the story. And so that was the bit that was head scratching. So I was sort of like working backwards, as well as working from that time onwards to like what time would the engines finish and be on shed, ready for the start of the next day. And I did find with Mark 1, I don't know with Mark 2, I didn't really check it. Mark 1 timetable, I have a feeling I somehow fluked it, and all the stock was back where it started, pretty much how Wilbert did his layout with his sequence. And I thought that was a lucky fluke. I didn't even bother checking Mark 2. I'll openly admit that, because I was like, I've managed to fit quite a number of trains in there and quite a bit of movement around in Farquhar. Sort of Farquhar I ended up with, I think at one point there was almost 3 loco movements as well to begin with, and then there was at least 2 throughout different times throughout the operation. And that's why seriously, you've got to do Farquhar first, Tom. You've got to finish, because I want to see the timetable run and see if it works.
Have a word.
It looks quite good on paper, but as I said, there will be a Mark 3, because I do intend to tweak it, because I wasn't quite happy with some of it. But yeah, it was an interesting challenge.
Well,
I'm here, folks, for hiring. If you want me to do a timetable, supply me with certain info.
It's very good. But it links into this. We discussed this, haven't we? How if you look at real railways and how traffic works and things, we've tried to put some of that in to the timetable. So, for example, we've put in a goods train that comes direct from Tidmouth and goes to Farquhar and back, and it's worked by a Tidmouth allocated engine. Because this is how it was, on real railways, sort of thing. You would have this happen. And we even came up with a name for it, because some of you may know my other layout that I haven't touched for about a year and a half is compressor on the Balablana Festiniog branch. And one of the goods trains had a name. It was called, I can't remember. That's
the Flockton Flyer.
It was called, I can't think of its name. That's really awkward.
Is it on the timetable, Tom?
No, it was an unofficial name. It's the Welsh name for Shrewsbury. Penguin goods. Remember, it sounds like penguin. There we go.
Yeah.
That's a duck.
Do penguins make a noise? There's a question for our viewers.
Sorry, I don't know what that was. That's something. It's turned into a seal.
That's what he is.
Wait, no, the colours.
Bit of pingu.
Where are the pingo? Pingo, right.
This has devolved very quickly.
My fault. Yeah. So yeah, the Penguin Goods was the nickname for it, and I was like, oh, we need to have one for the for the new.
Yeah, which was another reason why I ended up doing Mark 2, because I couldn't really kind of fit it in Mark 1. So I was like, all right, okay.
So what I came up with was the Fell Goods. Hold on.
That was the Fell Goods, which was a play on the brewery. Yeah.
The brewery, which is at Farquhar, and we came up with a little story that what used to happen back in the 1920s was Tidmouth crews always wanted to be rostered for this goods train, because there was about an hour and a half stopover at Farquhar, so they used to nip off to the Toby. And they nip off for a cheeky pint. And then there was this one time that the crew were in there, and they walked in, they went up to the bar, ordered their drink, and Hat's there next to them, and he goes, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." "Oh, sir." And after that, the stopover at the pub stopped. However, the goods train had got the term Fell Goods. So my idea was Tidmouth Loco 59. I will use one of the twins, and then I work it into the brake van story. It's Douglas, and the brake van at the back of the train is number 13, Spiteful Brake Van. And this is an example of one of the times that he had to take it out, and there was always trouble, blah, blah, blah. So,
that really works, because Maud, who obviously became Donald,
Who's Maud? Sorry.
You're getting senile. Of course, in the late 1950s and 60s, and also the early 50s and the 40s and the 30s, took a train called the Ferry Goods, which was also a run which involved alcohol at the end. So there you go.
Brilliant! I love it. I love that.
Hey,
We just came up with that. We just
Literally terminated at a distillery.
Great. I'm chuffed. Yeah, that works really well. We've had a couple of questions coming in. We're talking about Donald and Douglas. So
yeah. Can I dive in on this one, Tom? It's Two-Faced Tart just mentioned the Ravenglass will be lucky if they can dress their Urton-esque up as Bert and Rex into the wrong colours. And to be honest, they've always dressed them up, even with the wrong colours. My photographs go back to before I was a volunteer. I did actually volunteer at the Rafter for a little while. About 5 years. And yeah, they never ran as their the counterparts in the books in terms of colouring. And also, Urt isn't quite the same shape as it used to be, because it used to look like River-esque back in the 60s and before its rebuild.
How it looked in the books.
Yeah, basically how it looks in the books, yeah. Which is funny because you read iOS and it says about Bert's rebuild, so he looks like a more like a narrow gauge locomotive with a taller cap and a taller chimney, and then Clive Spong illustrated him the same as Mike and Rex, and he should have probably been in his more. He's a cross sort of between that and what Northern Rock became. Oh, what Northern Rock was built as, which is Jock in the books. So yeah, but yeah, no, they've always dressed him up in those colours. At least River Mike is the same colour. That's red, so there's one of them right.
I love Mike.
Timothy, do you? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that Mike was always my favourite.
He was always mine, and the reason was I did work experience from school at Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway, so I had 2 weeks up there. It was great. And the first person I met was an ex-Carnforth fireman who was a driver on Ravenglass, who was paid member of staff, and his engine was River Mite. So the first engine I actually rode in the cab was River Mite, and I had many days on that engine, running up and down with Ron Clark. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it up there. It's good fun.
That is one thing I quite like about the Ratty, is that each of the drivers do actually have kind of like an assigned locomotive.
Yeah, and and if the engine's out for a washout or repair or something, you occasionally see them on something else. Because I went out on Northern Rock with Ron in the second week, so I had quite a few rides out in Northern Rock as well, and River-esque. Didn't get so many on River Earth, but the other three, yeah, definitely. But it was good. It was enjoyable. Really was good fun. Tidmouth Yards put, do you guys like Locos 1.6 being experimental, prototype, heavily rebuilt? Would you rather there were standard Loco classes? I don't mind answering this one because it's the way I modelled.
Yeah, go on.
I would prefer that they were standard in some respect. Henry the rebuild is, because he's a Black 5. He's first batch, illustrated wrong, but we'll just ignore that. And I do like that he is a Black 5. Percy, you can argue, he's still a standardish class. He's an industrial. Avonside did build industrials like that, as Luke and I know, because we've got 2 at Preston. Well, we've got 1 at Preston, the other one's in storage, which is why I realise I don't see it when I go down there. The Merseyside one, the Merseyside Dock and Harbour Loco, Luke.
Yeah.
That's listed as a Ribble engine, not at Ribble. Yeah, he's not at Ribble.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, it came up in Facebook a couple of days ago, and it's actually in storage in Bootle, I think it is, of all places. Yeah, I don't know whether it's viewable by public either, but it's with another engine as well. So I was like, I always wondered where it was. I just thought it was in bits waiting for restoration. But no, so number 6 is Avonside product. Avonside were bought out by Hunslet in 1935, so that's where sort of rebuild Hunslet parts come into it, or could come into it. Not only that, industrial companies they weren't against repairing any engine that was sent to them. It didn't matter if it was theirs or not. Quite a few of them would take them in and go, yo, all right, might take a while to make the parts to suit, but they'd do it.
Money's money.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's right. Is that you don't turn it down? Certainly not back in them days. Number one, again, it was just an artist illustration. Because this is one thing that gets me and it makes me chuckle. People saying, "Oh, there's no drop down at the back of Thomas in the illustrations. His buffers won't line up." Yes, they will. All you'd need to do is bolt a bigger buffer beam, have the buffers at the right height. Job sorted. You know what I mean?
He did, didn't he, on his model?
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
I know that my model is which is a 3D print. That was designed to have lower buffers as well. So
yeah, so there's loads of people came out. Oh, they'll be the wrong height. No. Sometimes you got to look at it as an engineering thing, from an engineering point of view, or the simplest view, make the buffer being bigger. So Thomas comes to breakfast.
Wilbert just wanted him to suffer. He was.
I think he did. I think Wilbert wanted him to be like his model. He wasn't like his model, so he wanted him more like his model, which is straight running plate.
For himself, he needs to pay. He needs to get hurt.
Number two, I mean, personally, I don't mind if he was any 440. I know Stuart. Stuart's got one to mind for Edward. I like him being a furnace engine. I can understand why you'd pick a furnace engine. Let's put it this way: Furnace Railway right next door, Sodor. They lend an engine to the NWR by him, but he's definitely not illustrated as a Furnace Railway engine, that's for sure. And Gordon, I've always seen him as an A1, and the reason he looks like he does is, let's be honest, Wilbert didn't have an A1 model. He tried to make his model look like an A1, and it was a Princess, so the cylinders were slightly different shape. There was things that were different to what an A1 looks like. Personally, to me, he's an A1. And that's how I will model him, as an A1. Yep. But I will have a 6-wheel tender behind him.
But there was another A1. We mentioned this the other night when Mike was on. The photo.
There was. Yeah. But what colour was it though, Tom?
It was a black and white photo. But the weird thing is, if you look closely, the cylinders on it are not LNER. They're Stanier, which is again weird.
So unless it was like a Mark II model of Gordon, but I don't know. But yeah, you're right, Tom. There was eventually an A1, but to begin with, there wasn't. So, and number 5 is just, he'd have been better going for a Glasgow Southwestern and keeping it like that rather than this hodgepodge of a Class 28 LYR. I mean, I've fired the A class at East Lancs, and it's not an engine you would have pulling express trains at express speeds. Good for excursion work, which quite often they were put on Sundays. Mixed traffic, for stopping passenger trains and goods trains, ideal. That's what they were designed for. Sticking it on the front end of an express train, no way, no chance.
Have you heard of their nickname? The A class. Wigan Bashers. They were called Wigan Bashers, yeah.
I will be back. Carry on.
I mean, the only other thing with the Glasgow Southwestern is I know they were more preferred for the goods trains and slower traffic, but they still look more impressive to my eyes. So that's personally. I mean, yeah, James, I think we got asked on the test stream on Thursday night which models are we not looking forward to making, and I think, to be honest, I will go down the route if there's a kit of a Class 28, lengthening it, putting a pony truck on, because I do want it to represent what James is and what it says in the iOS. But I think that's going to be my worst build. And Edward, Scratchbuilding a Furness K2.
Yeah.
Because I'd quite like to have a go at kit bashing. And I know there's a kit out there. I could go the kit route, but I don't know. Maybe a challenge scratch build, but we're talking years to come. Plenty else on my plate to begin with. Gives me an excuse to get my mill outside up and running, mill some chassis.
just going back to number one, or Thomas, as I like to call him. I think ever since someone showed me a picture of a Furness Railway G5, that was me convinced.
Stuart, you are my friend for life. I agree.
Invite me out to dinner first. Yeah, no, and it makes sense geographically.
Yeah.
I think the E2s are quite ugly, I'll be honest. This is, I'm saying this as someone who really likes the LBSC and doesn't hate Billington, either of them.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like it's too beefy, it's too bulky and too long. Whereas that G5 is perfectly proportioned. It is almost like it's come out of a storybook. But also,
you make a good point geographically as well, Stuart. Like with Sudrian Railway, when you read iOS and other things that Awdry wrote about, they begged and borrowed locomotives before they could buy them because they were in financial difficulties. And it would make sense to go to your nearest neighbour and go, "Can we borrow something?" "Yeah, you can have one of them." "We're all right. We can live without one of them." And I completely agree. And they are a nicely proportioned engine. And you've got the splasher. The only thing you haven't got the tank extension, but make up a story for one of them. It's going to be easy to do.
Proven's gate modification.
Yeah,
I'm very happy with the model that I've got, because it doesn't have the irritating E2 cab where it's inset. And, it has most of the features I wanted. But I know that if someone ever did a 3D printed G5, I would buy about 3, have 2 Furness Railway ones, and then a Thomas. But yeah, and you mentioned Edward earlier.
Yeah, go on, let's do it. Yeah,
I say that someone dies a little bit inside, so I'm going to say it again. I think that of all the engines that I've seen, which is about 3, I think that Gordon Highlander, which is a Great North of Scotland Railway F class, I think, or an LNER D40, is pretty much a dead ringer for Edward, at least in the illustrations.
Yeah.
Especially the cab. Also, Gordon Highlander is just really nice. I'd love a model of Gordon Highlander. But,
that's currently still at Bowness, isn't it, on display?
Yeah. I think they repainted it just before lockdown. I want to go and see it. Yeah, I think it was just touching up the paintwork because some of it had faded. I don't think it had been painted since the 1960s. So, yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, we were due to come up to Scotland in July, so whether that still happens, fingers crossed. Because I do want to nip across to the Bowness and spend the day there. So we're going to make a 4-day.
Bring an engine, and I'll let you into the O gauge coaches.
Gee, I'm gonna have to finish one now then.
Yeah. Right. Oh, he's back. It's Tom.
There's quite a few other questions. So, speaking of the mission coach, do you think it's contrived? How would you say the tender swap would make sense?
Oh, God.
It makes sense purely because it's the same type of engine. So, I don't think it's contrived.
It's one as a kid.
It would take a long time to swap a tender, even if you're taking it from one to the same, swapping it in the same type of locos. You've got a fair number of pipes to remove and reconnect. I
think it's more like, what's the point? What are they trying to even achieve by doing it?
Oh yeah, with that one, it's Douglas seems to be the one. Douglas, it's hinted that Douglas shouldn't be there. He knows he shouldn't be there. He completely forgets the missing coach because his mind's on the fact that, I hope they don't find it's me. And so I feel that the story is good in that sense. Douglas is the unfortunate, clumsy one in some respects, till Donald then sort of tries levelling up with him and taking out signal box. So, not contrived, no, but in the context of the story, it makes sense to swap the tenders because there's no other way of telling which engine's which. Next one, any of you fellas considering doing recreation of Awdry's mid-soda? I'm kind of going that way. I've got a model of Duke in 7mm to do, and hence the wagons we showed earlier on. They're going to be part of a mid-Sodor type train. Just my attic layout isn't based on anywhere on Sodor, I will say. It's just like a test track because I'm restricted with space up there until I get into the garage. And then, yeah.
One day I'd like to do from Arlesdale up Casney Howin, the Mountain Road to Ulstead Road. I'd like to do that. Is something I'd like to do in 009 in my shed, not big size, and just to see them going round that sort of mountain bit. And then Ben, Stuart, and Luke can come round and operate it.
Hey.
Welshway is put. There's another Avonside at Ribble that used to work where I lived. Which one's that one? Welshway. Which other Avonside? Because we've got a two. We've got Lucy on display. That's an Avonside, and I think we've got a 6-wheeler Avonside. Another 6-wheeler.
Maybe. I thought that was the Mersey Dock and Harbourboard one that you said that wasn't actually there.
No, number 26 not on site, and I'm certain we've got another Avonside. I can't just think which one it is.
I think we do. I can't remember it either.
Is it Phil's? I keep getting that mixed up. I think it is. It's Phil's 6-wheeler, because I thought it was a Hunslet, one of the Hunslet 16 inches, and it's not. It's I think that's an Avonside. Stuart, someone's replied to you. Someone at their club Scratchbuilding a D40.
I don't think Stuart's there. Oh, he's back.
Hello.
Oh, he's back.
Oh,
he's gone again.
Heisler makes a very good point. This has probably been thought of before, but would it make sense if Henry 1 and 2 were different engines but was claimed to be a rebuild for tax reasons? Definitely. Even if not for tax reasons, just for financial reasons. Your first batch of Patriots, or the first two Patriots, had Clofton wheels, as you could tell by the centre boss of the wheels. They were really new engines with very few parts from the Cloftons, and the rest of the Patriots were new, but they were classed as a rebuild. So yeah, it would make sense to me.
The thing with Henry, it is that
Welshway, yeah,
it's essentially a completely new loco, but I imagine they retained a few fittings from Henry 1 to cheapen the process, and also it's still the same Henry. Different loco, but it's still Henry.
We touched on this on our first episode, actually.
Have we discussed Henry the Greenlee engine?
Well, me, Dan, and George did on the stream last night, Modeller's Corner.
Yes, I'd like to just... This was interesting, actually. Before the chat, before Luke joined us, I said, Luke said something on Awdry, on Modeller's Corner about that Tom will hate this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I quite like it. I said, I told Ben, and Ben likes it as well. And then Stuart went, you both said you didn't like it. And we're like, did we? So,
I cannot remember that. I honestly don't
remember it either, because I was just like, I really like it. I like the idea that Luke, Stuart, tell the theory.
Do you want to start us off, Stuart?
Okay, so this started off, it must be well over a year ago now. Luke and I were heading off to the Ravenglass-Nasdale Railway, and Luke was showing me that he had a very old, was it like a book? Was it booklet?
It was like a little kind of like booklet that the railway had released in 1923. It was funny because when we were at the railway, we looked in one of the cabinets in the museum, and there was a copy of the book in there. It was from 1923, yeah.
And Luke was showing me, basically what the railway looked like back then, because I was, I had a growing interest in it. I'd been there once before with him, and I really liked it. It's a great railway.
It's lovely.
And turned the page, and there it was. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was a Bassett Loke Pacific. Some of you may be familiar with the Atlantic in the museum.
Sinolda.
And it was essentially that, but longer.
Wasn't Colossus, was it?
It was called
Brocklebank.
And Luke and I said at the same time, that's Henry, which is something we don't often do because we are very ashamed of who we are. We never go around pointing at helicopters and saying, it's Harold, but that was Henry. So we started trying to find more pictures of it. Nowhere. We couldn't find anything on it. Went to the railway the next day and we just sort of thought, what is that? And we started talking about how it could, in theory, have been the basis for Henry. And the story goes something like this. Luke.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So, we all know Sir Nigel Gresley, I hope.
He's a very good friend of mine.
Oh, yes. There is another chap who you might not know about. He's Henry Greenley, who was a designer of 15-inch gauge locomotives. And a lot of his designs were based on that of Sir Nigel Gresley's. And they were, I'm right in saying they were, friends, weren't they?
They were friends, yeah. In fact, Nigel Gresley was... Sorry,
Stuart, I was just about to say, there is a picture of one of the Romney Hythe engines that Henry Greenley built standing next to Sir Nigel Gresley at Top Shed.
Yeah.
It's in one or two of the books.
In fact, I think Sir Nigel Gresley was invited to, I think it might have been Romney Hythe and Dymchurch when that opened. He was invited to the opening as a friend of Mr. Greenley's. So, I think there was a bit of, I think they probably talked a lot about designing locomotives. Admittedly, there was a huge difference in scale, but, I suppose the principles were there.
Yeah, so I think we kind of propose that Henry Greenley had sketched up designs for a locomotive, a Pacific type, that he'd heard around the time that his friend Sir Nigel was also designing a Pacific as well. So took his drawings in to discuss notes and compare ideas. And of course he left his drawings at Doncaster because he was like, oh, we'll go down to the pub, we'll come back and let them later. And this was in 1919, and as we all know, a scandal happened at Doncaster, and a spy or a worm from someone who had a grudge against Mr. Sir Nigel Gresley.
Jeremiah Jobling.
Yeah. Stole some plans from Doncaster Works. And they were in a bit of a rush, so they didn't see which ones they picked up. And that is how it is genuinely written in the Island of Sodor book. They picked up the wrong plans. We don't know what those plans are, but me and Stuart are pretty damn certain they were Henry Greenley's.
Do you want me to read that bit? I've actually got my book right in front of me. So,
and Tom, I've sent some pictures.
If we're sitting, please put them up, Tom.
Yeah, okay.
Right, Henry 1. Are we sitting comfortably? Henry I was one of Sir Topham's rare bad bargains. We only made his acquaintance in 1943, but even after 20 years, he was so angry at having been done that he would never admit who it was who had swindled him. I wanted an Atlantic, he would fume, and that something sent me that. And he thumped a photograph on the table. We never saw Henry I, but we talked to men who had crewed him. Henry I had a superficial likeness to Gordon, they said, but that was as far as it went. They remembered hearing rumours of a scandal at Doncaster in 1919 or thereabouts about the theft of some drawings. Nothing was proved, but it was alleged that a locomotive builder with a grudge against Gresley had engineered a leak so as to steal a march on him. His spy, however, blundered and took the wrong drawings. The mistake was discovered too late. The locomotive, when built, showed so many faults that the builder was glad of a chance to unload his white elephant onto a desperate customer. The locomotive crisis on the NWR in the 1920s was desperate, and Topham Hatt was having to make do with anything he could get. No one was better pleased than Topham Hatt when the Kildane accident occurred in 1935. At last he had an opportunity of having Henry completely rebuilt at Crewe. And what I like is the locomotive when built showed so it was the mistake was discovered too late. That obviously was when they handed the drawings over, took one look, and realised that the gauge was 15-inch.
Oh, no.
I think that is cracking, actually, you guys. I really do.
Well,
I think that is
what
super.
Luke and I had discussed, of course, how are you going to make the mistake when looking at plans of a 15-inch? I mean, what they hadn't realised was that, you had the numbers written. No indication of what sort of measurement.
No.
So, instead of feet, might have been inches that the plans were drawn to. And
it's funny, actually. I'll tell you why it's a good one and it works. Is because in the early days of Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway, it wasn't unknown for passengers to have to get out and push some of the engines up the bank. So you either pushed them up to Mill Wood, which is from Muncaster Mill up to the top. That's quite a steep climb. Beckfoot into Dalegarth. That's why it never ran back to Boot, because they would struggle up the hill. So they made the terminus at Dalegarth, so it was less of a climb. And actually, from Muncaster Mill to Ravenglass itself is actually a steeper climb than what people think. And it wasn't unknown for the odd few trains to stall and then have to be pushed. So scale that up to full size, and you've got this weakling.
Yeah.
And that's your little edit there to make it more Henry-esque.
Yes.
And less River-esque.
And again, also there is the connection where you've Henry Greenley. It's called Henry. He's green.
Yeah.
Henry the Greenley engine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that
that's
was
purely a theory, but it all connects.
I tell you what, honestly, the old gif of Leonardo DiCaprio raising the glass of wine. I'll give it. Yeah, I like it.
It all connects because you've got a good connection to Gresley there with Greenley. The mates. Yeah. He based locos off of Gresley's.
In Gresley's autobiography, there's actually a photograph towards the end of the book of him on one of the Greenley engines during a busy day at the Romney Hive.
There we go.
There we go. So I like that a lot.
Who's this? This interloper.
Oh, good book there. I like the book. Let's hold on. When three come together at one time.
By the power of Grayskull.
Even
by the power of Godred.
Right, out.
I do it to hurt you, Stuart.
I've just thought the job now. Mike, well, first of all, good evening, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Mike, have you got May with you?
No, she's in bed at the minute.
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to say, anyone who's seen Mike's lovely, lovely border collie, she looks very similar to my lass. Lass, come on.
You ever seen them in the same room?
Not really.
There you go then.
Lass, stay there. Ooh, here we go. Here's my lass. Oh, don't look away. Lass, here, what's this? Wow, you
Extremely obedient border collie.
I liked it how on Modeller's Corner, May was coming up to you and you were going, "Oh, I'll give you cuddles." My dog, she just runs away.
You ever heard the George?
In May's case, she kind of just runs. She kind of just comes up, sits next to me, or sometimes she just poke her head underneath my arm, just to see what's going on. And sometimes she may jump up there just to inspect the models, just to see where I'm at. So.
I'm trying to tempt. She's not stupid. She's border collie. I was like, "What have I got in my hand?" I've got what I've got in my hand, and she's like, "Nothing. I'm not stupid." She was up here before, but now she's okay. Well, there you go. That's you've ruined that, lass. Live on the internet. Thanks a lot.
It's always on the internet.
Question here: Two-Faced Art Productions. Had Henry have been written out of the series proper, which sort of engine basis do you think Awdry would have had added? A Black 5.
Or technically a green 5.
A Jubilee.
Yeah, likeness, I suppose.
That was hold on, I might have a picture I can show. My back in my early modelling days. Well, when I had my old layout when I was about.
Oh, is this the?
You might have seen this actually.
Is this the days of MTF?
Oh no, this is before internet.
This is the days of black and white television.
That's the one. This was like back in about 1995. My late dad built me my layout, which used to go through my wardrobes.
Oh, frick! How old was I?
It was weird because it was an end to end. I always wanted a roundy sort of layout.
Must have been 3 or 4 at that time.
And yeah, I'm not as old as Ben though.
Thanks. Cheers.
Right.
I only cut my hair so you can't see the greys.
He's been around since the wooden tops.
Wow. Mike was joined the chat and now he's insulted.
That's you told, Ben.
So yeah, my old is this the? I think this is the one. Yeah. So this is back in about 1997, 98, and it's before Hornby had done a. Here we go. I've got the board. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, that's the wrong picture. I haven't got a picture of that, but I have got a picture of Henry. A picture of my old layout, and I'm just going to share it now. The caption is from 2007, and I put the boys, Gordon, James, and Henry off my old layout. So sorry, I'm still not very organised. But that's it.
We've noticed. All right, don't worry. Did you put the picture up of Awdry Corner?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
Wow. History in the making there.
It is. There is a picture somewhere that I did. I think I scanned it, but no, I'm not going to try and find it because I'll be ages. So, but yeah, I used a Jubilee because there wasn't a Henry, and I did a little face and I painted the Jubilee face on it. It was reasonable.
There was one video I saw somewhere where this one fella, his dad made him a Henry Mark 1 using a Triang Princess.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, it looked really good.
He was restoring it, wasn't it? It was very much the TV prop based, but my God, it looked brilliant.
I know it actually looked like a proper manufactured one.
I thought it was like a proper replica, but it was just like, oh no, my dad just made it. I was like, bloody hell.
Was this a black and white picture?
No, it's a video.
No, it's a real thing. Hang on, I'll see if I can find the video and I'll send you a link to it.
Black and white picture of what looks like an early Henry or Gordon, but with other Hornby engines, and I've seen it passed around Twitter.
That Gordon.
The 1953 one, and it's not. I don't think. Is it?
No. The you're thinking that one that's from an old Railway Modeler article.
Yeah, it's just someone's model, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically just somebody's model railway layout that they just they couldn't get the model, so they just of a certain character, so they just custom made ones. So Gordon was just probably like a repainted Flying Scotsman with just like a made up
very weird face.
Weird face to make him look like the illustration from Gordon Goes Farm. And then I think Boko was somewhere next to him there.
It was a Railway Series styled.
Yeah. Now you see Mavis in the backdrop, and I think Daisy was also in one thing as well. But Percy's shown it as well, but he's just all in his Ghost Train livery. So, and then of course you have Thomas all next to him. But
oh, bless me, sorry.
I'll see if I can find this video for you.
Let's try to see if I can find this photo of my old. Here's an interesting one. If I can share this picture, let me just. It's some. Hold. I'm just. I'm trying to make a joke, and it won't be that funny when it appears. So.
Well, in that case, then I'll fill the time in. Ballast Man, excluding Thomas modelling, what era would you like to model?
That's
I would
suggesting.
like to model. Oh, hang on. Sorry, my question split in two. I'd like to model the 1920s, 1930s. I think that's for development of technology. I think it's one of the best periods. You've got streamlining, you've got curves, Art Deco. It's just what was appearing before World War II sort of ruined things. I think that's an interesting period, and I think I'd probably like to do. I like oddities. I like light railways and stuff, but if I had the space, I'd probably love to do East Coast Main Line, but maybe north of the border.
Good taste.
Just. Or the other one would be the Waverley route.
Again, excellent.
I reading a little bit more about and stuff, and they had quite a selection of locals that used to run over there. So yeah, that would be what I'd like to do. So
me personally, I would actually like to try and this is more or less from childhood. Really, I always wanted to try and replicate the Hornby track mat layout, like the one from the 90s, because for me, I just felt like that's the layout I always wanted to make. So yeah, it's more of a train set really, but I just found it like really cool to look at, because I used to remember during my childhood, whenever my parents took me to like Toys R Us, for example, the Hornby section of the shop, it was like it just covered one whole aisle. It was so amazing. So you had had this wonderful display case on one section that was all lit up, and you had all the trains, all different types, and maybe you had Thomas in here, and then you had a whole line of train sets and boxes of track and buildings and so forth. But I always took a box, one of the train sets off the shelf, turn it around, you'd always get that big complete track mat setup, and I just looked at it. I was like, this is so cool. And this was like before the internet. Like, if you want to try and look up like a picture of the thing, you have to actually go to the toy shop and actually look at it yourself. It's like, right, that's my fill. Right, I have to go back home again.
So you should say that, Mike. The one thing I never got when I was a kid, and I always wanted one, was a HSP set in the like Pip and Emma in the blue with the yellow.
Yeah.
And I never got one. And that was sort of one of the few things that was like, oh, I want one of them.
Well, what was it? There were two train sets I actually did remember wanting to get when I was a kid. Well, the first one I already do. One of them I recently got last year, which was what was it? The Triang R2 train set, and that was like one of the second train sets I think here, where it just had like a Triang Ginty, 2 coaches, and a circular track. I just saw it and I thought, that looks pretty cool. I quite like that train set. It's quite awesome. But the second one I would have really wanted to get more as a kid was probably I think it's called the Permanent Way set.
Oh,
That's
brought back memories.
Yeah, I think he remembers that train set. Basically, it came with an N2. Is it an N2 class?
Yeah, I think it was
N2 class.
Oh,
yeah,
I think I know
class
what you're
and
about.
red breakdown train. Breakdown crane.
Yes,
and,
I never got it, but I know exactly which one you're on about.
Yeah, I always
very
wanted
nice.
that one. I always wanted that as a kid, though, but never got it. But I made up for it, though, by getting myself a Flying Scotsman set in 2008, so that was fine. You always have to start off your collection by buying a Flying Scotsman, as I say to my friends.
I started with the Thomas and Percy dual Hornby set.
I actually remember my dad getting me that for my 7th. Was it my 7th or my 10th? I can't remember. It was one of those birthdays, but he got it for me from Index shop, because like I remember in my childhood there were 2 catalog shops. There was Argos and then there was Index, and I think he got an Index on the way home from work, because I remember back then, like the Thomas Percy set, that was the biggest set you can get in the Thomas range. But it was the only biggest set you can get. I just remember, I just absolutely just loved it to bits. And one thing I do remember about that set there was when it arrived when my dad gave it to me, and when I opened it up, they had one of Thomas's crank pins. The screw that held the crank pins together had been lost. Like someone in the factory forgot to screw it on, and I had to take it to a model shop to get a brand new one, fit it on.
I remember getting Thomas the Tank Engine when it first came out, the first year Hornby released it.
Wow.
So I'm trying to remember the date on it, but I can remember how how big the box was. The
Was that-
polystyrene box was
Was that,
huge.
was that with the old like Railway series look face, or no? Did it have a different one?
No, it was the Hornby model face on the box, passing like which I always thought in my mind was meant to be Mrs. Kindly's cottage.
Oh,
And,
yes.
it had Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle, an open truck, a van, a brake van, an oval of track, and a siding and controller with it. And then the Percy set I got the following year, which just had a cattle truck with SR on the side, an open and a closed van. I might have had a brake van with it. That was just an oval of track. It was a slightly smaller box, and I had them for years and years.
I actually do remember my first Thomas train set I ever got, like from Hornby, was a Clockwork one, and it was in that old packaging, like you said it was. It was in that old packaging.
Yeah.
We got it from a cash and carry place that we often go. We used to go to quite a few times there. We don't go there that often now, but they had them on sale there. I wanted to get the Percy set because I saw the Percy set that you mentioned, and I really wanted to get that. I was about 3 years old now. My parents thought, no, you're still a bit young now for this set here. Wait until you're 5, which I did. So they ended up getting me the Thomas Clockwork set, and I had
I had some of those.
Yeah, so
040 Thomas.
Yeah, so so my setup was when I was young. My parents actually got an old billiard table, and because it had all the grass mats in it, and I used to put like my wooden brio trains because I inherited a whole load of brio stuff from one of my cousins in Germany, and we put it on the billiard table, and just had Thomas going around and around. I had a few like maybe early learning center like farmyard buildings or hedgerows that I had, try and make up little diorama set or something. So I had a nice few plays like for maybe about an hour, and then I took Thomas downstairs because I wanted to do this game I used to play years ago with any toy trains I had that moved on its own. Where I put it, I don't know if you guys ever did this. Where you started off on one journey at one end of a table, and then you race to the other end of the table and you try and catch it before it reaches the other end.
Suicide.
Eh?
Suicide mission with trains.
That's what I used to do as a kid, and it always worked there. It always worked until that fateful night. In fact, it was the same night I got the train set. I raced to the other end. Thomas set off on his happy little journey to the other end of the table. I was going to be ready to catch it at the other end. I tripped on the chair leg off the table.
Oh.
And you just imagine a poor 3-year-old me just watching helplessly as my first and only Clockwork Thomas flies off the table and smashes into a million pieces on the tiled floor.
You laugh now, but you're still dying on the inside.
Well, I'm very glad though that I really want that set. I really love that set. That's so cool. I never knew that set existed though.
I didn't either.
That was my first set. I think.
You lucky bugger.
That was my first one, and it was one of my first ones. One of my first sets I got was an 8F set. Let's see if I can find it. I think it was an 8F. It had a.
See, I never got any of Gordon's coaches. I had James, and I had James's coaches, which were red.
Yeah, I had the same. Like,
I never got the Gordon ones.
I never
got
got Gordon.
Running like everything else behind him, like Gresley Teaks and stuff like that.
I know. I really wanted a Gordon. Like, in fact, I still haven't got a Gordon. Actually, I've got a Bachman one, but the Hornby ones had a bit more power to it, I suppose.
Good old traction tires.
Yeah. So, plus the motor was more powerful. So.
If I can find this picture, because this is what I loved from the Hornby book, Hornby sets from that time. I think they look stunning with the boxes, and I'm just trying to find.
Yeah, because I mean that's what always drew me. That's what always drew my attention to the sets. It's just the way they showed the box artwork, and then, like the ones from my childhood, I always remember with the '90s packaging. You have the trains look like they're racing through like this wonderful scenery setup. And it's all blurred, but only the train's in focus. I always love that.
All the stuff that's out there on the internet, and I can't find it.
It's something that just came to my mind. Actually, I'll talk about it in a second after you show your thing here. But it's to do with the Hornby's adverts.
I used to like the one that's the one I liked as a kid was where the little boy goes, "I got my Thomas and Bertie set."
Yes, I remember seeing that one. I saw that one when I was a kid. I used to love that.
I don't remember any of the Hornby adverts, but the one that sticks in my mind is actually a Yellow Pages advert. And he buys his granddad's model and then takes it up. And when I saw the attic, I always wanted that attic. That would have been just all these trains whizzing around, and I'd be like, I used to love that advert. But I don't remember any Hornby ones at all.
This was my first train set for Christmas, probably about 1989. Here it is, and I love this. There we go.
Oh, nice! I remember seeing that in a catalogue actually.
And you can see it actually. You got an engine shed as well.
That's pretty cool.
Funny enough, Tom,
and glowing
at least 3 of them wagons, if not 4, were in the Class 37 diesel set because I got that.
Oh right.
You got the Texaco one, the SO one, the brake van, and the SO one being the one that looks like Tidmouth milk tanker, and the flat truck at the back end.
this milk's off. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot that. But I remember now. You get a free cassette tape. Yeah, back before DCC sound.
Actually, I actually have 5 Hornby cassettes. Was it the one with Noel Edmonds on it?
What advert?
No, the cassette tape.
It might have been. I can't remember.
Because I got 5 of that. I actually bought a pack of 5 of those off eBay last year, and I promised I'd send one to Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I must.
That is a good set because you look and actually you can't see them in the box, but I do remember the sort of 16-ton mineral behind and that larger SC one. You got a fair amount in there. Really? Yeah, that was.
What was the one I was like? This was, I think, was this in the 2000s series? Was it the Great Eastern set? Well, basically, it was like when Hornby brought in their radio-controlled system.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, which was it was 01, was it called?
I can't remember what it was. Yeah, it might have been that. But basically, it was basically one train set that actually had you had the complete track layout for one of their track mats, and it came with I think it was an R1 with 2 4-wheeled teak-style coaches, and you have an 040 engine. I think it was a Caledonian-based engine with some wagons and a brake van. I'm trying to remember what it was. And then you had 2 houses that actually house the radio control system. You get 2 remote controls, so you can power each of the loops. They use that system as well for the Thomas sets as well, if I remember rightly. So you always get the Thomas sets and it's got radio controlled, and that was
I used to have that. It had the little house.
Yeah, and it made these weird. It often made these weird noises. The train noise was just I used to find the train noise a wee bit annoying, personally, because it always faded away, and it didn't last that long.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I've found a picture before I was going to share it. So all I just want to say with this picture is that clearly, because Sodor for a long time, didn't have a connection to the mainland. Dating was a bit different on Sodor.
It's the Untitled Goose Game.
Oh my lord, that is what that story is.
Come on, love, you're coming home with me.
Quit swanning around.
Hey.
Hey.
Actually, I showed you the back of that. I showed Ben that picture for the back of the cab, and you weren't that impressed with it, were you?
No, I'm not either.
Nah.
Yeah.
Probably because I've got the general arrangement drawing, and I'm looking at that going, well,
It's not even that. It's just generally you look at Thomas and you know it's not a flat back of the cab. It'd have the bunker.
I'm just kind of wondering what those wires are for.
It's a lubrication pot, so it's meant to be lubricating something. And some engines did have them in the cab, and they'd be lubricating the back axle. or the horn guides, I should say. So that's why sometimes you see them in the cab. One engine at Ribble, two actually, Courageous and Linda have lubricated.
Yeah, they have them in the cabs, don't they?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's for the back horn guides.
Interesting.
We have
You might want to pop that in your cab on your Thomas.
Might not actually, because my Thomas is more or less based on a trains model actually. I'm not going to say which one, but you'll find out.
Oh God, is it mine?
Oh
no.
Nah, I don't think so. But yeah, I was just saying earlier. There was this one advert from Hornby I do remember. I think it was like probably 2006 or 2008. It was one of the last Thomas Hornby adverts. I think I remember what it was, and it makes me laugh to this day. Really, you see the guy, the announcer telling oh, Thomas is going to the circus, and there, and who's this? It's the creepy Emily bringing old locos and so forth, and it then cuts to the shot of the kid and his dad. This still makes me laugh. It's this shot here. The kid is literally looking at the set, and he's like, "Oh, it's brilliant!" He looks at his dad, and his dad looks, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like, 'cause I remember, it's like he's trying. He is trying so hard. It's like he looks like Rick Mail trying to look impressive. Yeah.
We've got a question here. Two Fish Dark Productions. Awdry endorsed the Nene Valley Railway's Thomas, which showed disdain towards the other Thomas replicas made from the Friends of Thomas event started. Would you say that was down to the commercialism? I think possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he lost. I think. If you think when the Day Out with Thomas started, it's around when Series 3 was being broadcast, and obviously there was already the fallout.
Yeah, because I mean, when was the Nene Valley's Thomas?
In early 70s, wasn't it? 70, 71, something like that. As early as that.
I thought it was late 70s, but it's definitely 70s.
It could have been 70 something, anyhow.
Yeah, because I would actually probably would like to think personally that that is the Nene Valley Thomas is the real Thomas thing engine.
For all intents and purposes, it is.
Yeah.
In our reality, at least.
Yeah. So like
thing I've ever said.
So I could probably because I can just remember like in some areas of my childhood, people used to say to me, "Oh, Thomas doesn't exist. He's made up. He's a toy train." I was like, "Oh, I can now win them back over saying, no, Thomas is a real engine. He's at the Nene Valley Railway, and I can prove it. You just have to watch an episode of Poirot, and he's there in the background somewhere."
You're all wrong. He's working on the Farquhar branch on Sodor.
Well, he has to have a holiday.
They're on lockdown as well. So he's having a rest at the moment. Oh, I'll tell you what. Can you imagine it in that shed on lockdown? Toby, Percy, and Thomas. Oh my goodness.
Oh. They haven't stopped chatting. They haven't. I think Thomas and Percy are at each other's throats right now, as far as I checked. Last time I was down at Farquhar.
It'll be Thomas be there. Percy, have you let off wind again? No, it wasn't me. Oh, you stink.
And Toby's just sitting there going,
"Please take it, sorry. I'd rather spend time with Mavis than these two." Is Stuart still with us? Oh, yeah, he said he's away.
Yes. Quite agree.
I have a picture I had set this up before, and I know we've sort of gone off on a tangent, it's fine. But regarding sort of, Barrow, Vickerstown and stuff. This picture, and I didn't realise this until probably 6 months ago. Ignoring Thomas the Tank Engine for a moment, as in the book.
What?
I know, sorry. There is a picture of Vickerstown in the Railway series. Drum roll. No, don't.
Oh, it's a bloody Clive Spong one, isn't it?
What do you mean? Clive Spot, we love Clive.
It's in this book, isn't it?
No.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Well,
the early Vickerstown.
Yes.
Pre-bomb.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bring back.
Yeah, that channel's a bit wide.
No, it
About the only thing that's right in that picture is the church in the background.
It is, because I've taken a matching image, stood with Ben. We've been to Sodor, haven't we, Ben?
We have, yeah. Couldn't see a damn thing. It was foggy, it was windy, it was blowing a hoolie, and yeah.
We crossed over.
The tide was in.
And we crossed over Jubilee Bridge, and I went, we're technically on Sodor. And I went, a bit of a dump. No offense to anybody who lives on Walney Island, but it wasn't the most attractive of places. And then we took Lass for a walk, technically on Sodor. And it was very foggy that day as well.
It was bloody awful.
I actually do remember. I mean, when I was flying over to the Isle of Man, I actually did remember seeing Sodor on the way over. And when we were at Snaefell, we could actually see. It was a clear day, and we could actually see Sodor in the distance. Like we were shot.
I heard weren't they having issues with flooding?
No, because it was a very hot day. It was clear skies, no floods.
I heard that the whole island was sort of underwater.
No, you're thinking of Atlantis.
Maybe something like Jerry Anderson's, like Marineville, where it used to disappear underground. Maybe Sodor does that temporarily.
Or maybe it'd be like the Mysterons in Captain Scarlet, Jerry Anderson's new Captain Scarlet, where they just it has like a cloaking device and it only appears at certain times.
Yeah.
I was watching that earlier today, actually, just to recap memories.
But no, that church is correct, actually. I'm not sure whether the rest of it is, but yeah, that is. It was only afterwards when you read the text, he mentions that. And he said Luke met. No, sorry, Edward. That's nice. I got you confused with Edward, and Edward's a nice engine. So that's,
yes, definitely my favourite character.
At least I didn't say James and call you Luke or something. I couldn't compare any of these. Anyway, no, it's a quite nice. And I was like, well, where is that? And then it quickly you twig it. It's when you then think to yourself, Edward was going to be the pilot engine for the Royal Train. So he's having to trundle 100 odd miles from. Well, he's had to go all the way there, and now he's got to come all the way back to Tidmouth. Quite a long way. But there you go.
He was only fresh back from the works after losing a wheel.
Yeah, running intern.
The lads of Percy can do wonders.
We came up with this idea. Well, I think it was Luke's. Or it might have been Luke and Ben. But obviously, Vickerstown isn't how it looks really in Thomas the Tank Engine, because obviously, again, Awdry wrote this at a time, and then.
I do feel though that Vickerstown, as built, because it was the headquarters, would kind of be larger than what's presented in Clive Spong's illustrations. Definitely.
Is there a photograph of Vickerstown where it actually had?
It's that one illustration in Thomas the Tank Engine.
But I mean, like in real life, like did they ever?
The real Vickerstown never had a station. No.
Okay.
It had a tram stop though. It did have a tram stop.
So yeah, what I imagine it being is the large station. You'd have, I reckon, you'd have 2 terminating roads and 2 through roads. So it's a 4-road station, and then you'd have that carriage/goods sheds on the side, the triangular roofed one you see in Thomas the Tank Engine.
What about in
that would fit, Luke. If you look at that Clive Spong illustration, you've obviously got Edward in the platform. You've got the platform itself, then you've got Pip and Emma, and then there's another set of tracks there. So it could be a bit like Barrow. Barrow had a covered area over platform 1 and 2, which was destroyed in the
Yeah, see, I can imagine where Pip and Emma
platform
are
3
now.
and 4 was always uncovered.
Yeah, that's kind of... Well, I'm thinking with the illustration from Thomas Tank Engine, they were all undercover. But as you know, I can't remember the exact year it was. Was it 49? No, it can't be
46.
49. Yeah, I was going to say, just when was Barrow bombed?
Barrow was bombed in 1940 in September. It was bombed in April 41, and it was bombed in May 41.
What's the one that destroyed Barrow Central Station?
I wrote that down before. It was the 7th of May, 1941.
Yeah, so I imagine when Barrow Central got bombed, I imagine Vickerstown being a similar large railway you know, I say
Casual.
large. But I imagine that also got, you know, bombed as well because it's quite close. And then upon rebuilding, you get what you see here in Clovis Bongs, you know, the much more downscaled version.
I imagine being a bit Art Deco, like some of the early VR stations. It's a bit fairly modern-ish. We didn't.
Yeah.
And of course, we were talking about Neil before, and decided that Neil was mounted at Vickerstown, a bit like Copper Knob, isn't it? That was
it was mounted at Barrow in the glass house,
and
the greenhouse, which got bombed.
And it's now at the NRM, and it's actually there's shrapnel in the engine. You can see it. So poor Neil, who'd been saved and put on a plinth at Vickerstown, got bombed.
Disappeared under debris.
Poor Neil.
But yeah, no.
Can I just say, I've just said this about Neil. We've gone from 7 viewers to 6, so I can imagine someone's just gone, "How dare you!"
We're sorry.
But yeah, so I do think, Vickerstown would be like this larger, you know, fully covered station, and then bombed and then reduced in size. Because
as a way to apologise to him that the Sawdor main one never managed to make it to Vickerstown. Here, we'll give you a big shed, a big station.
We've up Sorry.
But yeah, Timothy Yard is actually one of the members of my club actually, who's helping me make the Northwestern Railway.
Because I saw his excellent Skarloey was on the club layout, isn't it?
Yeah, he's done really good work there, and he's also has Duke and all made up there. Really nice.
Yeah,
but he's even like put the Duke's name on the same way as Revenoggi has his. It's very nice.
I envy you, all of you who have Skarloey models, as in Skarloey, because he's my favourite engine. And Narrow Planet haven't got the detailing thing again, obviously with the lockdown, and it's the one engine that I really want to do.
Well, have you got the Bachmann then model there?
No, I haven't bought the Bachmann one yet. I've got Rheneas, and I've got the detailing thing for Rheneas, so I can do that one. And my Ibertren chassis arrived, so I can crack on with Sturhan.
Yeah, don't rub it in.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Thomas?
Who?
Yeah. What about you, Thomas kit? Yeah.
The one that runs on the wider track.
The one that we've been waiting for a while now.
He's in the cabinet. We're next to Thomas, Percy, and Toby, who keep taking the mick out of him because of his orange colour. But he will be done. I'm feeling I'm going to be held accountable now.
I'm sure I've heard that one before.
Oh,
considering I actually, helped do a timetable, I'd quite like to see it run.
Yeah. Do it for Ben.
Richard says Luke has a spare loco he can give you, Tom. Oh, cheers. Luke.
I know I don't.
No, you've got a spare shell.
I've told you this before, Richard. I've got a spare body shell, not a spare loco. If I had two Skarloeys, I'd be rolling in it.
But no, I will get on with it. Actually, I have got a little bit of news. So there's a chap who's doing my Farquhar buildings and things, and I was going to send him the plans for Abergynolwyn shelter, which is going to be Skarloey Station shelter. And then I was talking to my friend Jeff Taylor, who some of you may have heard of. He's superb at making buildings. He's written a few books on making buildings. And he's doing a new layout, which I think Luke and Ben have seen photos of, Brinanum, which is a South Wales layout. And he's just built. I mean, his buildings are amazing. And he's just like one after another, bang, bang. He's just making these from scratch. I said, Jeff, I need to really go. I need to attempt it because I'm putting it off, and there's no reason I can't do a good job. And he was like, start with something simple. And I went, well, there's this. And he went, there you go, get on with it. And I've just gone, yeah, I need to. So I am going to make the shelter for Skarloey myself. And I know if I get,
very good.
I can always ask Luke for some advice if I get stuck. So
Will's plastic art sheets.
I might, Jeff suggested, and I have done this before. I have hand scribed in DAS. Actually, I can show a picture of the compressor road bridge that I did.
I'm just seeing here. Do you want me to bring since you were mentioning Thomas earlier on, do you want me to bring my Thomasite?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Showing off.
Should we have
Inspire me
a
to get
big,
it.
should we have
All
a big
these people
Thomas?
with Thomases and mine still in a box.
Well, mine's still under construction at the minute. Though it recently had some new co-wheels out today, so you give me a sec, I'll carry it in.
And you too can show off your Thomas models by submitting on Twitter your photos. Hashtag Awdry Corner, and we'll ignore them. I mean, probably. I don't know if Tom can multitask.
Can't no. Can't talk either. Oh, I have to go through all these photos. I can't, oh, there's the wooden outline of it. So let me just get to the good bits. In my phase where I started to stop doing the modelling, I started collecting expensive Star Wars things. I wouldn't recommend it. Ah, there we go. This was before I'd done any graph work. But I'd had some MDF cuts for me to make the parapet stuff of the engines. Sorry, of the road bridge. Just waiting for it to appear. Exported file. Okay. Where are you? I think my poor laptop's just struggling a little bit. Here we go. So put that into there. Click enter. So yeah, I'd hand scribed it, painted it a base colour, dry brushed it, and I don't think it looks too bad. Now I'm probably going to share the wrong picture now. Oh no, that's the one. There we go. And I did that scribing gas clay.
Oh, lovely.
So what puts me off with buildings is the fact it's not a kit, and it's me worrying I'm going to mess up on measurements and get the scale wrong. And
I honestly don't think it matters all that much because that looks excellent.
Well, I mean, I've roughly worked out how big the MDF was, and the friend who did my baseboards just cut me some pieces of MDF. What I might do is I've got that railway modeler article where the plans are 2 mil, which I've showed the one of which has the Dolgok station building. I'll print it at 200%, so it should be 4 mil. Have you got something for me, Mike?
Yep. Now, like I said, I do have Thomas with me right now. You guys may have seen before. This, I'm hoping to God some parts don't fall off because it's a bit.
Oh, they will now. You're on camera.
Yeah.
Don't and whatever you do, don't clockwork it up and set it going and try and run to the other end of the table.
Oh, this won't, because there's no wheels on it yet.
What do you think?
Oh, wow.
Big. Yeah.
Click on his camera, Tom, and bring it up bigger.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, right, hold on. Oh,
You just kicked him out the stream.
Thanks, Tom.
right,
Make him bigger.
I'm trying, but Mike's on the bottom row of the thing, and I can't see any of the other options.
I can't do it. Oh no, woe is me.
There we go.
There we are.
Right, so this is basically made out of a drain pipe, so you can see the drain pipe in there. So it's still a pipe for the chimney. Plywood for the whole base there. Coal rings, just the last things that were added on. Right, hang on. It's very complicated because some stuff on this is loose. So the back of the cab comes off, so you can see around.
Wow.
So as you see, the coal rings were the last ones, the last things that were made for it there. They were just 3D printed. Put those down there for a moment.
That is amazing, Mike.
This is the cab interior. If I can keep it at a good angle. Now, it's not finished yet. I still have to get some stuff made up for it though. So
Wow.
that backhead's a bit loose at the minute. So, but the I can take the backhead out. So you can see he's got a working regulator,
Oh, nice.
and
A firebox.
there's
Ooh.
will be a glowing firebox.
Oh, nice.
So put a light behind that there, and it'll light. Yeah, and then the camp floor, which is also 3D printed, which I painted in brown and with some textured paint to give it like a bit of like an ash and coal look. And yeah, there's a few dials there which I need to get painted up, but yeah, there's still a lot more need to get made up for this. But and then also the water caps can open and close.
Oh,
Ooh,
Nice.
So they'll work on one side.
lovely.
The only thing I am a wee bit, one thing on this I really don't like is this safety valve. So I don't know, I might maybe take it out or maybe try and touch it up a bit more so it looks more convincing. But yeah, so there's still, like I said, more to do. Need to put lamp irons on the buffer. Need to get a coupling chain sorted out, some brake piping, and also need to get the other side lined up as well. So that's why this side is still is done there now.
I love how you've even done like the frame spacing on the frames.
Now that was the frames were actually done for me by a friend of mine at my miniature railway club. So he made the frames for me, but all the rest I made myself. So there was actually an option for us to make this in using laser cut machine, but I wasn't very good at. I wasn't very good at getting all the parts measured up and cut there. So I just says, look, it's more fun if I just do it by hand, just do it by scratch. So he's like, yep. Go for it. So everything you see here, all you see on this here, I had to make myself using only 2 sets of plans of an E2 from the front view and the side view, and that was it. So
wow.
So areas like like the back bit there, that was only guessing. So most of it's all like guessing. So even like the back heads out there, it's all guessing.
What gauge is that then, Mike? Is that 5-inch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I scaled the plans up to 5-inch gauge, 1 to 12 scale, and printed them out, and we just use them as a trace, and So other details on there, you can actually see, you've got rivet detail as well. As you can see there. So the rivets are actually like little gems you can buy from craft shops. From Pineland actually, you can buy them from Pineland. I just loosely stuck them on, and I just gave it a paint of Hammermite Smooth Blue, and the paint makes them stick more firmer, and they don't come off at all. So that's good. And then the number one is just a Sharpie pen, which I just drew on and then just lined it with pinstripe.
How heavy is that?
I don't know, probably 5 kg.
Mike uses it as a workout.
Yeah. It's going to get a lot heavier with the rest of the stuff put on. So
wow.
So I've still got the wheels to fit on. I've actually got one of the wheels here, which a mate of mine turned for me on his lathe. So give me a sec. I have to be very careful with this. So so that's one of the wheels.
That's lovely.
It's made for me. So I just have to get it spoked up now. So I have to get a side view of E2 and count how many spokes it has, get them made and glued on, and then we can, once the lockdown's over, I can take it back to the club, get it gauged up, get it probably gauged, and get the wheels corded, and then we can make the side rods. And then we can get final details put it on, like brake pads and so forth, and that's it. Oh yeah, and also the record, it does have a face, so but I'm not going to show the faces.
No, keep that as the big reveal when you need to.
You'll see. Yeah, you'll see the face at in-branch engines. So
Lovely. Ben, you sent me something. I've just seen. Shall I share it for anyone who's a 009 modeler? Because I've got it and Luke's got it, so it's not like we're gonna
yeah, you can do.
Want to bid on it. But for anyone who's after wanting to model either the Talifin coaches or the Skarloey, this has appeared. I don't know how complete it is.
I don't think it's got wheels.
There we go.
Meridian coach parts.
It's got the instructions, but it's missing because I've just built mine. There should be another fret with the footboards and things on, shouldn't there, Luke?
Yeah, it's missing that. It looks. Oh yeah, it's not got the buffer beams either.
But it's got two roofs. Because there's a roof on the edge and there's a roof.
Yeah, that's interesting. Someone's.
maybe that's meant to be maybe that is meant to be the footboards. Because you can see, because that looks wider than that.
Oh no, that's definitely the roof piece. The footboards are plastic, not brass.
That'll be because Mike, the roof I think's already been formed. Because it comes on a flat edge, and I was asking Luke for advice for forming it, so it will look smaller because it's been curved, if that makes sense from above. But yeah, I know they're highly sought after. I'd had mine 12 years for my first venture into Skarloey stuff, and I nearly sold them to you, Luke, didn't I?
Mm.
And I'm glad I didn't, because they've not been in stock a long time. Well, quite a long time.
Right there, Luke.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
you.
Yeah. No, I didn't want narrow gauge stuff.
Always the guilt tripper you are.
No, guilt trip. Just
you.
I could detect your tone. It was.
Richard asks, what issue in Railway Modeler does Awdry's layout appear?
1959.
1959 December, I think. Yes, it's December.
But it also features in the 1954 of Model Railway News.
Yeah, Model Railway News, and again, that's a December one as well.
Yeah,
that's a nice. I like that one because that's lots of. There's a nice shot of Edward and Thomas at Knapford Junction.
Yeah,
which is a nice one, and it also has excerpts of his working timetable.
Which myself and my club members are going to be following.
And it also gives stuff which I think we all believe is canon, because this is where stuff about the Express comes from, with the Express that it worked to Euston and.
There's actually something I actually want to point out here, actually, because he just reminded me of this. When we were planning on building the layout, this replica, one of the guys in our club, who's our carpenter, who help us make the boards, he pointed to the track plan that we were using. He pointed to the return loop, and he says, "I don't like that." I was like, "Right, okay." And he just "Why do you not like it?" It's just waste of a board. It's like, what purpose does it have? And I was like, well, it's to turn the trains around so we can bring it back in, because it's part of its operation thing. He's like, I don't like that. I was like, oh, okay. So what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? Because you're the chairman of the club. And I'm like, well, we could always have a traverse turntable, I suppose, or a filiard, or maybe a novel layout. The board, the Knapford section is already 14 feet long. We've got no more room in our area of the shed, so I had to try and think. So for a while, we were saying, I said, well, we'll make a filiard or something like that there. And then recently, before this lockdown all happened, I think I kind of won my way of actually wanting to have the return loop put on, because when I told him about what Reverend Orgy did with his express trains, was that to limit the cost of buying more coaches, he actually painted the other sides of the ones he had in different colors.
He did, yeah.
So that when the train came back on the return loop, it literally turned the train around, so it looks like a whole different train. And when I told him about that, he says, oh, I said to him that it was a novelty idea, really. So like, it just fooled the people, so you don't know what that's a different train. And he literally burst out laughing. He's like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" I just said like, but it can only be done if we have this return loop in. But if you want to if you want to traverse, he says, "Oh, we have to have that in now." And I'm like, "But I thought you said you didn't want it." No, but after hearing that's amazing. Yeah, yes, we'll put that in. I'm like, right.
I like the fact, Mike, that he says, "I don't like it," and you were like, "What should you do?" And he goes, "You're chairman. What are you going to do about it?" And he's like,
I know, because I was when I was voted to be the chairman of the club, when just literally in the early days when we were like planning on making this layout, and because they everyone voted for me because they thought I was the best person to know about it more, because I don't know.
Experience and that kind of thing.
Well, I modeled branch lines, but this is my first time modeling main lines, so yeah.
I was going to say about the whole carriage colour, livery change. That's because it goes out as the Sudrian, and he has it coming back as the Wild Nor'Wester.
Yeah.
Which it's not how I probably want to do something like that, but actually it makes so much sense for Wilbert because he was operating it on his own. So so I can totally understand why he wants to do it. Richard says, "Would the timetable be useful?" I found part of it useful in sort of planning things out. He has the first goods train that comes from Barrow called the Milk. I think it's named a bit like we were talking earlier about the fell goods that we've come up with. It was just a nickname for the train.
Yeah.
And Thomas works push-pull, doesn't he?
He does.
Yes. Yeah, he works as a push-pull because his branch line hasn't fully been made yet. So for a while he's just been operating like the push-pulls, going from Nafford to Cronk, back again, then to Tidmouth.
Can we say that's canon, please? And then once the line's completed, he runs it conventionally, like a run.
Well, to be honest, our plan is that we actually are going to make this an exhibit layout. So we will be taking it to shows once it's finished. So once the time comes, I'll let you guys know, and you guys can come over and see it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a shame that because me and Stuart were planning on coming over that one time. It's a shame that all fell through.
When was it? Did you say you were? It was
when the museum was
the museum.
Yeah, that's how.
Yeah, it was the Whitehead show, wasn't it? We were going to go to that.
Looking forward to. I was actually literally so looking forward to seeing you guys. I was getting all prepped up for that. And he says, "Oh," then he messaged me saying, "Oh, we can't make it." I'm like, "Oh,
hey,
yeah,
I could make it."
It's such a shame it fell through.
Well, but no, mind you, I do remember on the way back home during my time there. Like, I remember actually, got like a really cool like moonlight scene, like a really really awesome full moon shot from the beach at Whitehead, because it just looked so awesome. So I just took a photograph of it there. If you look at my Facebook page, that's my banner. But there was a guy in the museum, one of the volunteers there, who during the early opening hours of the show, I was watching him, and he was applying the gold leaf on this industrial tank engine that had recently just been repainted, and he was putting on the gold leaf out there. And I just watched him like applying the gold leaf flakes and all that there, and I just says to him, I says must be quite expensive though, just putting gold leaf on it there. And man just turns around to me just midway through dabbing the gold leaf on. He's like, "There's 5,000 worth of gold on there right now."
Lord.
Like that there, and he just continued dabbling away. You just see all these chunks of gold leaf falling onto his little thing, on his little napkin that he had. I'm like, flip me.
$5,000.
$5,000 worth of gold there.
Maybe somebody told him that.
I know. It's just a lucky
They
game.
do a good job on it. They do a good job because they're like, "It's $5,000 worth there. You better not mess up." No.
I know. But he even had like one thing I always found this very interesting as well was like when he was doing the lettering, he was using that those very long brushed head brushes that you see those people use for for signing and so forth, or doing line work. And I always find that craft very interesting, because like when you see people do that, it's a master skill. Like, so.
There's a video, I think, of somebody lining out doing BR lining, black with orange, and they're doing the orange. It might have been on Scotsman. It was on. I'm trying to think what it was on. No, well, it might have been. Anyway, and you watch, and it's like you say, it's those very long brushes like that, and it's amazing just watching them sort of, do it. Incredible. Yeah. No transfers.
No transfer at all. Though I do remember in the TV program was it Going Great? No, that's Chrissy Green's thing. It was it Great Central Steam? Or Central Steam? Well, there was some program about like documentary about the work.
There was that series about Great Central about 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's probably it there. That's probably it then. There was like one episode where a guy was like they had this Ginty being restored. You just see the guy in the workshop applying the British Railway decal.
Yeah, it was the Great Central thing. I remember that.
Yeah, and he says he just see him like he had all these lamps and all these big floodlights all around him, and he's just say I have to use the light of the lamps here to try and help dry the varnish on the decal that I'm applying, because it's cold weather right now. It's absolutely freezing here, so I have to get the temperature just right, or something rather, to make sure the thing sticks properly.
Speaking of full-size engines, what livery is your engine going to be in, Ben, when it's finished?
Midland red, lined out in blue.
Red and blue. That's an interesting. I've seen that before somewhere.
I wonder where.
There might be something else going on the side of it.
Skarloey.
No, I couldn't get away with that one. No. Something else that might raise the eyebrow with the purists.
Ben likes to upset people.
Yeah, and I've already got the number plate to go with it as well.
That reminds me, I must actually try and see if I can get a nameplate made for my miniature railway engine, because it definitely needs one.
Lovely.
Yeah. I have to get
Mike, by the way, she's settled now. There we go.
Oh, I love her.
You on film? Yeah. You don't care.
Hey, May. No, not May. Lass.
Dog.
Frick's sake. Every time I see Border Collie, I keep saying May. She's a good lass.
Well, I think maybe we should wrap it up there, unless anybody would like to add anything else.
Well, I've got a new model. I've got a new model commissioned by someone. I commissioned somebody to make a model to print it to 3D print a model for me. There's a friend of mine who at our miniature railway club. He's bought one of those photon resin printers, and I've recently made a model on just for like whilst I'm designing stuff for my branch lines and thing. I sometimes make these little models like for cameos and say, I just made this one little model. I thought, I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna make a cameo somewhere in branch lines, and it'll be nice to have something for everyone to keep a lookout for. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's something to do with recent postings.
Fergus.
That might be a bit of a clue, actually, of what I just said. Recent postings, there's a bit of clue in there. So I sent the thing over to him. I says, "Would you mind making me 2 of these?" And he replied back to me. He says, "Oh, I'm making you 4." I'm like, "Okay." Well, you can keep one of them as well, because to say thanks for doing that. And he's like, "Yep, I'll let you know tomorrow." So that's gonna be awesome. So I've got the decals ordered off for it as well. So hopefully they arrive during the week.
Oh, we should give yourself a pat on the back.
I've just realised it says that there's 5 people. Is that just us 5?
No. Well, I'm not looking at it on
loaded up in another tab.
Oh, I've got it open in another tab, so that means there's 4 of them.
Night.
Nighty night.
Thank you for watching about our ramblings and yeah.
But wait, hold on. There's a question. What?
Last
question. Which Rev Awdry creates character push to shove would you write out of the series?
Where's
There's a better way.
I
Was
can't
that from
see.
Richard?
No, it is from
Two-Faced Tap Productions.
Yes. Which Rev Awdry character? Oh, I'll
Percy.
which Rev Awdry created character push to shove would you write out of this series?
Percy.
Wow! Straight off the bat.
Yeah.
No.
He was in.
Yes.
I've been waiting for this question.
Loco.
Oh,
Hey,
so much hate now.
I'd swap Boko for Fergus.
Yeah.
Who would you write out?
Me? Did you say?
Yeah.
Character.
Cromford.
No. It's also Crompton, you idiot.
Oh no. Compton.
No. It's not even a character.
He's written.
Um,
He's got a page on the wiki.
What about Bloomer?
no, see, does he specify Reverend Awdry? Oh,
Reverend Awdry character.
otherwise, I would have
Reverend Awdry
said
made a model of him, so let's point that. Let's just point that out. Reverend Awdry made a model of Bloomer, so
I would get rid of. I don't know. Do we have to?
well, we
I've already
have to-
taken the best one, which is Boko.
No, I know.
Can I answer? Can I?
Go on.
Yes.
Thomas.
Well, yeah.
That's rude.
Which one did Tom just say?
Thomas.
He gets far too much recognition.
Yeah, he gets too much screen
Actually, no, I
time.
think what actually, no, I'm joking because actually, Stuart, we discussed this. I always use Thomas is brilliant because he's horrible.
The most horrible living being in the known universe.
No, I'll get rid of James then.
Yeah, James is a fair one. But yeah, like we talked about it before though, like when he meets Terence. Hello. Oh, what ugly wheels you've got. It's nasty. You know, it's nasty. Even the web acknowledges that by then saying, Thomas saw Terence again. He whistled at him, but he never spoke. Or he never answered him back. He never spoke.
Well, when Thomas has the voice of Tiny from Tots TV, I'm not surprised.
That was my Johnny Moore.
I'm driving the train. I'm driving the train. Yay!
Anyway, promptly into the station master's house.
We're in perfectly good breakfast.
I couldn't write any of them out. Maybe Tom Tipper's bike.
Oh no,
Does that appear?
it already got written off. It got killed.
Oh,
Percy
actually,
killed
that
it.
worked. Yeah, that worked.
Percy
That
killed it.
appeared before Chris Awdry.
How about just Tom Tipper?
Thanos snap.
Well, Chris Brody has confirmed that he is now retired, so
What did he say he was dead?
Chris already confirmed himself that he is dead.
Chris himself fired the shot.
Oh no.
blimey.
Oh, any more questions? Come on.
I'm still trying to think of an answer other than
Because we've
Boko.
gained viewers. I see we've gained viewers all of a sudden, so we're out to 7.
That's very true. Yeah, and I know the Rev Awdry character I would write out of the series. Sigrid of Arlesdale doesn't appear, doesn't add anything, but was a Reverend Awdry character in the
Right.
series.
To be
I would
honest,
write
if it was
out-
anything like the Ratty engine, it wouldn't have been brilliant in there.
I'm gonna maybe have a lot of issues now because considering I am an actual writer for Thomas, like that's gonna be
Luke,
just good for the list. Like, right, okay, who can I write off now?
Luke, Timothy Yards just put a comment in. You can answer that one. Reverend Awdry created Ivo Hugh, so you could get rid of him and nothing would have changed.
Yeah, that's why I said Sigrid of Arlesdale, because I like Ivo Hugh because it's based on Tom Roll.
Oh, here's one, right? The Reverend W. Awdry himself.
God,
No.
you could.
Remove.
Clergyman.
Take the fat clergyman out instead. Well, he was taken out. He fell on Duke and died.
What would Teddy Boston do just all by himself?
Well, no,
Play with strings.
Well, he fell onto Duke through the hole and bashed his head over. Tumbleweed.
Well,
So if you said Chris Awdry characters, you know, like you've got the ballast spreader, you've You've got every.
Small railway engines, yeah, take it with these little spectacles on.
I thought that'd be. Well, he has to get it all precise, like, you know, to get the ballast at the right height, and all for the sleepers.
I love it. I like that one. George. Get rid of George. He's miserable. I was going to say Bulgy, but Awdry already did that, didn't he?
Who's your favourite character, Tom?
Favourite character?
Yeah.
For me, Edward.
I might just say Skarloey to annoy you, Stuart. You go, too far.
We'll get rid of him then.
He's old enough. He's old enough to retire.
In fairness, growing up, my favourites were actually not the nicest ones. Gordon and Henry, I always liked.
I always, like I said before, I've always loved Edward. Just like him.
Ben hates everyone apparently.
Yeah, I couldn't get rid of Thomas. I couldn't get rid of Edward. Happily get rid of James. Percy, I always found an annoying. It was like 1980s cartoons. You always had that character that was a pain in the backside, like Snarf out of Thundercats, and then you had like you had like other characters like that. And it was just the one annoying little thing, and he was definitely a green gremlin that needed getting rid of.
I know exactly what you mean.
A bit like Alan Tracy in Thunderbirds.
Yes, yeah, I always found him the most annoying character.
I was thinking about Alan Tracy earlier on today. That I think I'm so like, you know, he's always whining about certain things. Like, you know, the Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds I'll Go film. Like, you know, that was all centered around Alan. I'm like, I thought it was all about the Zero X and the
we all know who Jeff hated, though. Really, I mean, who else would? Why else would you send your son into space? John is the child you really didn't want.
Well, in fairness, Mike, what I do is it's like Thunderbirds I'll Go. You watch it up to then it gets to that dream sequence and carry on the film.
I know. It's Cliff Richard Jr. doing the weird, doing the puppet. Cliff Richard doing his puppet dance.
The bit where it's going, mind the gap, Alan.
Oh, do you know? Do you know what? It still makes me laugh when I'm watching it. I think I have like a HD copy of it or something or other. But like when he shows that shot, when you see it pan out, you can see the trolley that the model is propped on, and it's all kind of lights. Yeah, you can see the corners and all over there. And I'm like, wow, that must have been so easy. So
the bit that made me laugh is where you see the little model of him falling through space, and Penelope's going, ha 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 ha. You look, the little figure's got his hand on his hips. I've never seen anyone fall with the hands on the hips. No, I did like that film a lot. I like the end crash. I thought was amazing when it.
I thought Thunderbird 6 was better.
Really?
Yeah,
it had a really good
Thunderbird 6 because it had the tiger moth.
I was going to say because they even had that nice railway restaurant.
Yes.
Whistle Stop restaurant.
With the lion.
I thought it was Planet.
Is that that shot in the?
It's definitely an L&M loco.
Yeah, it does look like lion, and it whistles every time there was a train coming, didn't it? The train would appear with the thing.
Yeah, it was all little triang trains. Like so, you had like you had like ones with a ginty coming to bring your dinner or your beer, and then there was one with the Caledonian single.
Yeah.
If you ever needed scale reference for the Thunderbirds puppets,
use triang.
Yeah. Now Alan is 70 Caledonian singles tall. Therefore,
no, funny. I'm actually quite amazed. Like, you know, you see like in these Jerry Anderson programs, like you always see like parts of model railway parts. So like the Airfix harbor crane rigging, you can see that in certain shots out there, and you can see like parts of the girder bridges kits, or heck, even I recently even spotted in series 2 of Thomas and Friends at Knapford Harbor, or the early version of Brenham Harbor out there. The cranes you see, they're actually made from Hornby girder bridges.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. If you actually look very carefully, you compare that to the Hornby girder bridges, it's the same pieces.
Ben, just to say back to you, like Thunderbird 6 because of the tiger in it. Tiger in it. In fairness, though, the worst bit of that film is where literally, if Virgil could have winked at the camera, he would have done where he goes, I've got a tiger in my tank.
Funny, I actually do remember. They actually went to court because of that stunt where the tiger flies under the motorway bridge.
It was under the new motorway bridge, wasn't it? And there was the food and some of it's model shots, isn't it? But yeah, they did actually fly under.
They actually got this female pilot to do it there, and she went for it.
Went underneath. Actually, my favourite bit of that film is the bit where, obviously, what's it called? Skyship, isn't it? Skyship 1.
I think so, yeah.
That's the name of the...
Was it Skythrust?
No, that's from the Mr. Hackenbeck episode.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What's it called? The Sky...
Skynet.
Google it, quick. Someone, what's it called? Skyship 1. I'm sure it's
Skyship 1, yeah.
And as it's lowering down, and then Scott goes, "Dad, there's trouble ahead." And then he's like the early warning towers thing. And
I always love Scott's delivery of the line when Virgil tries to come in and he sets his thrusters off, or his just offline. Virgil, pull off! Your thrusters are freaking off balance. And I'm thinking to myself, like, he's done that before. Surely Virgil's learned from his mistake.
What's great with that is he's like really wound up. He's Scott. Virgil just goes, "FAB." Yeah, that's fine.
Right, answer me this, right? Anyone.
Batman.
What did FAB stand for?
Fabulous.
Oh, it's
I'm
never
sure
Fabulous. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Short for fabulous.
Because it was the buzzword at the time, wasn't it? So they shortened it to FAB because it sounded pretty good.
Some people said it's something
But I said this, I remember having this conversation. It's weird how things stick in your mind, but I remember having this, actually, it was an argument at school, at secondary school of all places. And someone said to me, "Well, what does FAB stand for?" And I said, "Fabulous." And a mate of mine looked at me and went, "Right, you're in a danger zone, you're about to be crushed by something, and someone tells you to move. FAB, it's fabulous." I was like, "Yeah, and?"
It's funny because, like, the FAB kind of coding that was passed on over to Captain Scarlet with SIG, and Captain Scarlet is the only series, as far as I know, that actually acknowledges that there and they actually explain what it means.
Yeah, spectrum is green.
You have also in Stingray, you had PWOR, which was.
What?
I don't remember that.
I don't either. That seems a bit of a mouthful. Maybe
Was
it was the sound. Maybe it was the sound of someone would make as the drowning.
Yeah, no, it was their equivalent one, PWOR, which means proceeding with orders received. Easy just to say that. PWOR.
It's a bit long.
Yeah, I can just imagine Phone saying that with his Texas drawl. "Hey, yeah, no problem, Troy. PWR."
But what was it?
Marina.
Oh god, here we go.
Oh yeah, Stingray is probably like one of the only Jerry Anderson programs that actually had a character from Red Dwarf feature on it.
Okay.
Right. There's a character, and there's a series of characters in one episode. It's the episode when these characters, they come in and they sink islands, like literally cause islands to sink, and they actually, when you look at their faces there, they have the same head proportions as Crichton from Red Dwarf.
Yes, I know. Are they like silver skin? But they
have like a cream type cubular type face head or something like that, but they actually have Crichton's head. And I mentioned this on Twitter. I just says, like, "Oh look, Crichton's in Stingray." And they're like, "What?" Somebody actually got back to me saying, "Is this an actual footage?" I was like, "Nope, this is a real thing."
Did you say they sink islands, Mike?
Yes.
Ah, well, they must have got to Sodal. That's the worst segue in ever. And on that bombshell.
No pun intended.
Night, night.
Good night, sleep tight.
Thank you for watching.
Bye bye.
Catch you all, guys.
Goodbye.